Agent.
Yeah. Look, smart chick dumb. Say she wanna smoke, baby, roll one. Oh, you can't roll, baby, pack one. We gon' keep smoking till the sack done. Oh yeah, hella chronic and my hyperbolic. Time chamber, yeah, I'm feeling brolic like Goku when he fighting Broly. Peppermint green Maserati. What I'm trying to get, I know God got me. God sinner, yeah, I'm God body. I'm a pothead up in Potter's house. Glasses on, trying to spot a hottie. No Sue, woo, blue Denali. We was 4 deep, me and my crew from college. Running through, boy, I called it Charlie. Gangsta like opponent got it. Up early with the birds. See, I'm really trying to get this thing moving. See, the money playing probably seem Jewish. Got the upper hand, got the theme music. Got the Dapper Dan jean stitch. Dripping water, yeah, it seem fluid. You a Kappa king snitch. Self-esteem foolish, really need improving. Let me show you how to do it. Ain't no carbon copy, ain't no duplicate. I control minds 4 states away. Get the party popping for my crew and fresh out the shower, yeah, pimp coat be my bathrobe. I ain't new to this. Taking flights and catching Uber. Blowing kisses to the stewardess.
Good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. You can fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Haters cut it out like a coupon. I'm on top of the green like I'm a crouton. My young told me get a hand bone. I told him that I'd rather have a cube on. Listen. Hey, it's been a good day. I had to put that ice cube on. Got a bad looking like a cube on. Smoke a big whistle like a cube on. Keep winning, y'all lose on. You know if it's me, it's you, homie. Cross me, I'ma get my Uncle Drew on. You know murder is an art, you get Drew on. Me and Q type get 2 bones. Smoke a whole 56, 2 zones. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Try to stop, get a tombstone. Get ghosts just to see what you boo on. More kids in the mouth than a group home. As a kid, all I wanted was a coupe on dubs just to pull it off the lot with the roof gone. Good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah.
Can you feel it? I can feel it. I can feel it. It starts in my head. And it starts to move on down to my stomach. It makes me feel all good inside.
Agent.
Yeah. Look, smart chick dumb. Say she wanna smoke, baby, roll one. Oh, you can't roll, baby, pack one. We gon' keep smoking till the sack done. Oh yeah, hella chronic and my hyperbolic. Time chamber, yeah, I'm feeling brolic like Goku when he fighting Broly. Peppermint green Maserati. What I'm trying to get, I know God got me. God sinner, yeah, I'm God body. I'm a pothead up in Potter's house. Glasses on, trying to spot a hottie. No Sue, woo, blue Denali. We was 4 deep, me and my crew from college. Running through, boy, I called it Charlie. Gangsta like opponent got it. Up early with the birds. See, I'm really trying to get this thing moving. See, the money playing probably seem Jewish. Got the upper hand, got the theme music. Got the Dapper Dan jean stitch. Dripping water, yeah, it seem fluid. You a Kappa king snitch. Self-esteem foolish, really need improving. Let me show you how to do it. Ain't no carbon copy, ain't no duplicate. I control minds 4 states away. Get the party popping for my crew and fresh out the shower, yeah, pimp coat be my bathrobe. I ain't new to this. Taking flights and catching Uber. Blowing kisses to the stewardess.
Good weed too strong. Got a bad, her too long. You can fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Haters cut it out like a coupon. I'm on top of the green like I'm a crouton. My young told me get a ham bone. I told him that I'd rather had a cube on. Listen. Hey, it's been a good day. I had to put that ice cube on. Got a bad looking like a cube on. Smoke a big whistle like a cube on. Keep winning, y'all lose on. You know if it's me, it's you, homie. Cross me, I'ma get my Uncle Drew on. You know murder is an art, you get Drew on. Me and Q type get two bones. Smoke a whole 56, two zones. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Try to stop, get a tombstone. Get ghosts just to see what you boo on. More kids in the mouth than a group home. As a kid, all I wanted was a coupe on dubs just to pull it off the lot with the roof gone. Good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah.
Can you feel it? I can feel it. I can feel it. It starts in my head. And it starts to move on down to my stomach. It makes me feel all good inside.
Yeah. Look, smart chick dumb. Say she wanna smoke, baby, roll one. Oh, you can't roll, baby, pack one. We gon' keep smoking till the sack done. Oh yeah, hella chronic and my hyperbolic. Time chamber, yeah, I'm feeling brolic like Goku when he fighting Broly. Peppermint green Maserati, what I'm trying to get, I know God got me. God sinner, yeah, I'm God body. I'm a pothead up in Potter's house. Glasses on, trying to spot a hottie. No suit, woo, blue Denali. We was 4 deep, me and my crew from college. Running through, boy, I called it Charlie. Gangsta like opponent got it. Up early with the birds. See, I'm really trying to get this thing moving. See, the money playing probably seem Jewish. Got the upper hand, got the theme music. Got the Dapper Dan jean stitch. Dripping water, yeah, it seem fluid. You a Kappa king snitch. Self-esteem foolish, really need improving. Let me show you how to do. Ain't no carbon copy, ain't no duplicate. I control minds 4 states away. Get the party popping for my crew and fresh out the shower, yeah, pimp coat be my bathrobe. I ain't new to this. Taking flights and catching Uber. Blowing kisses to the stewardess.
Good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. You can fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need two homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed, too strong. Got a bad, her too long. Young fly like two drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Haters cut it out like a coupon. I'm on top of the green like I'm a crouton. My young told me get a ham bone. I told him that I'd rather had a cube on. Listen. Hey, it's been a good day. I had to put that ice cube on. Got a bad looking like a cube on. Smoke a big whistle like a cube on. Keep winning, y'all lose on. You know if it's me, it's you, homie. Cross me, I'ma get my Uncle Drew on. You know murder is an art, you get Drew on. Me and Q type get two bones.
Well, thank y'all for joining us today for the weigh-in. Skittle Killer Official Juju in the building. And tonight we're just going to give y'all a little something before the actual debate that will be happening actually. What is it? This Friday coming up on the 26th. So please do join us for that. But in the meantime, excuse me, let me correct myself. It's not a debate, people. It's an intelligent conversation. My apologies. An intelligent conversation is what we're going to be having. So without any further ado, I'll start with Marcus. Please introduce yourselves, gentlemen, to our audience, to our guests.
Peace to the panel, peace to the chat. Chilembwe here, glad to be here, ready for this high-level conversation. Hope everyone enjoys it.
Logic. If you're talking Logic, we can't hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll give him just a few minutes.
I'm quite excited about this conversation. I've been putting my presentation together, trying to streamline it as much as possible. I think it'll turn out to be, if not a clear-cut case, but more so very informative on two positions that there's no consensus on. It's just a perspective and a conversation needing to be had. Where do we go from here? So we'll see how everything turn out. I'm hoping that the ultimate goal is that it'll encourage some to look into the subject matter more, get a clear picture on where science is at, where they're intending to go, what they may be able to accomplish, what they may not be able to accomplish, but just a clear picture of where we're going from now, right? If you think about it historically, this conversation, you have assumptions made through pure observation. And when you look at those assumptions through pure observation, it seems logically rational. As science has advanced and we've learned more, you can recognize that some of these previous conversations, some of these previous assumptions may not actually be factual. So as the technology increases, so does our understanding of the natural world. And then you start to see the beauty of that. So, that's just where the conversation is. And again, I don't want to minimize the either position. I think it's worth the dialogue so that we can at least see what has been known for some time. So, Logic's back now, so I'll give him an opportunity to speak.
First, before he speaks, just introduce yourself to the audience, Logic, please. If you can hear me, if your audio is connected and working. I think Logic is having some technical difficulties at the moment, so let's give him a moment. But you're absolutely correct on everything you said, and it was very interesting for me doing a little bit of background into it, even for just the simple reasons of trying to hashtag, right? Some similar names came up, Aristotle, Immanuel Kant, in the free will conversation, as it was. So if anyone is interested in learning more, those are definitely the ones you need to look up. What is it? Jean or Jean Jacques. Let me get his name. I'm not gonna mess it up. He was another pioneer, so to speak, to the free will conversation. Also, and Logic, anytime that you think your audio is working, you can jump right in. I was just trying to stall for you.
Well, hello everybody. How are y'all doing?
Wonderful.
This
How
fine,
you
wonderful
doing?
evening.
How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I think tonight is a great night for me to go ahead and take all the momentum and actually go into the debate in the on the foot that I'm supposed to, because that's what I'm just reading. But yeah, I don't know where you guys left off at, but
No,
when I go,
we were just
I'm gonna kind of go in. So I'm gonna let y'all go until it's time for me to go in. But when I go in, just let me go in. All right, I'm going back on mute. I'm gonna let y'all do y'all thing.
It's not a y'all thing. It's between you and Marcus. Excuse me, it's Chilembwe, Logic. I'm just the mediator.
Chilembwe.
Thank you. I'm gonna mess it up. I'm just the mediator for the conversation, so it's not a 2 against 1 here. I am an unbiased spectator at the moment.
It's not really even against. I actually got a lot of respect for Marcus. Especially I get that respect more so from previous conversations that we have. And I know he puts a lot of effort into understanding what he knows. And I absolutely cannot, see myself like downplaying the effort that it took for him to get to where he's at. Right. So I may have a different outlook on some of the similar material that we both looked at, but that's okay because we've both taken the time to look at it. So I gotta respect him for that.
Absolutely. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Vasa, thank you. You always my lifesaver every time. But yeah, like I said before, Aristotle, Immanuel Kant, and the Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Those are definitely, if you're trying to understand somewhat where and how this free will conversation started. It is a philosophical discussion at the moment. I like to say, and from my observation, I believe that I don't like to use that belief, but from my observation, I can make I can make the argument that it's actually moving into more of a scientific conversation. Of course, with new technology and testing, but that's my opinion. But if you gentlemen would like to give the audience a brief, it doesn't have to be too brief, but if you could surmise it in the most proficient, efficient manner, and not to confuse, because this is a difficult subject to grasp, but let them know your stance on the free will conversation, because there are levels to it, and there are plenty of nuances with this conversation. And actually, I'll be fair and start with either one of you an alternatively. So at this time, Logic, I'll let you do that if you don't mind. Or maybe not. I hope y'all enjoying that background.
I kind of have a lot of steps that I feel like I have not put into place, and I think I want to let Marcus go first, because I think there's a couple things that I've intentionally not said, and it seems like the gap between what I'm saying and how I'm getting there, I need to bridge it, and that might take me 5 minutes or so. So I want Marcus to be able to go first, and then I'll be able to fill in some blanks for some people as far as how I got where I got.
If that's okay with you, Marcus, go right ahead. Before we continue to get started, if you don't mind, just for observation reasons, because we're trying something new, put in the 1 in the chat if you like the background music. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. So I'll know for future, but I like it. But it's not up to me. I want to give you all what you want. So help me out with that. Tell me what you think. Marcus, the floor is yours.
So we prepared a debate prep, and I'm just going to go off my points. I want to be very clear and concise on what exactly the issue is, and then we will be able to go from there. So let me just tell you what it is. And my thing is, I'm a hard determinist.
Stay on mute. Anybody but Marcus, please stay on mute for now.
Yes, a hard determinist is a very specific concept, and that is that it is ultimately based on cause and effect, causality. That is the position I take. That would mean that the state that you're in now is based upon prior states inside of the universe. And that is based on that. There's a physiological part to it, a biological part to it, a genetic part to it, an evolutionary part to it, a physics part to it, and that these processes, these fundamental processes that have taken place, shape who you are today. So that is the position that I'm taking. The notion of free will, often perceived as an objective concept, is ultimately subjective conjuncture, and it does not align with determinism, which means it's incompatibilist in every sense relevant to human behavior, and that is my position. So nothing more, nothing less. That's my stance. Thank you.
So compatibilism is the position that says it's the position created to attempt to solve the issue in determinism that says that if people are not the source of their actions, then how could you hold them accountable? How can you hold them morally responsible? Maybe I'll even throw that in there just simply because that's what it says, right? So, and so what I'm going to be doing is not proving determinism wrong, but simply showing where science actually gives us the ability to make rational decisions inside of determinism. Determinism being true does not exclude our ability to be able to make choices and have enough control over our choices to be held accountable for our choices. And that's a real simple way to put a very complicated subject.
Wonderful. Before we continue, we have a pseudo killer official in the building, Cedric Ortega. So I want you to take a few minutes to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Peace, family. How's everybody doing? Pseudo killer official, scientifically literate. Arguments based on logical parameters. That's what we stand on. And of course, I'm a real black atheist. I just wanted to say in a debate format, Logic, if you're the pro, you should always state your position first. And it's that position that's what it's going to be counted. So yeah, that was my only observation. And I'm I'm interested in hearing the discussion. Of course, everybody knows if you're firmly rooted in science, you're going to be a naturalist. You're going to use methodological naturalism, and science is rooted in determinism because cause and effect is simply the way nature works. So, where the discussion is, I'm a hard determinist myself, so I want to see if logic can bring any type of data to support his position of free will within compatibilism.
I'm gonna do it tonight. I'm gonna actually show some cards tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Cedric. Yeah, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, add a little seasoning, some flavor to it, make it spicy, to start off the conversation. But I do want this to be engaging also for the audience. So I might address a few of the questions that are also being portrayed in the chat. One particular is about the definitions of, maybe the stances that both of you are taking concerning the free will conversation. And I oftentimes, and this is to Phoenix Rising, I oftentimes always ask, when they are defining the stances, like, how are they defining it, right? Because technically it is a philosophical conversation, yes, but there are also arising some scientific implications, and they have distinctions, and sometimes the definitions are slightly different when you ask whether that's the philosophical definition or the scientific one. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I said I was going to alternate, and you forfeited your alternation logic. So I'll start with Chilembwe. I'm gonna mess it up every time, y'all.
All right, that was it. That was great.
Oh, thank you, Logic. Thank you. So Logic has the stance that has to do with slavery in this conversation. How do you feel about that? And do you think you can qualify that in this particular discussion? And give me your reasons for why or why not.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry. You kind of died out on me a little bit.
Logic has these implications about slavery or whatnot in this discussion. So I wanted you to either to give me your thoughts on that, and if you could possibly what is your I guess logical opinion on it? Like, can you qualify that in this discussion, or can you not? And if you, and wherever you choose, give me your reasons why or why not.
I think it lies in two different categories, right? I may not like the implications of determinism, but that doesn't make it any less valuable. So the argument about that is that I don't hold the individuals who committed acts of slavery and violence, in a sense, I don't hold them in any type of disgust regard. That doesn't necessarily mean that I approve of their behavior. That's two separate conversations. Morality and morals are fluid. What may have been acceptable 1,000 years ago, today is no longer acceptable. And those people 1,000 years ago reasoned in their mind that the behavior was acceptable. So reason in and of itself is not a gauge of what is morally correct. If I was to go 500 years into the future now they would look at some of the policies and practices of us today and consider that to be immoral, right? But we reason that today is morally acceptable, right? We don't have to go that far back to even see these things being played out. You go back 150 years, look how certain sexualities was treated, right? Today, we may not hold that same degree of disgust. And so the act of slavery was horrendous. It was wrong. And that the effects of that is still affecting Black people today. But that's determinism. That's not compatibilism. Determinists say that the prior state affects the current state in a sense of cause and effect. And so because of the actions committed then, today we are still suffering that. That's determinism. That's not compatibilist. Compatibilists actually argue similar to the opposite of that. So that's my point on it.
I noticed in there that you actually used the word wrong, right? How can you determine that they were wrong if you can't hold them accountable? I found that interesting.
I don't think that's a big thing. You had Hurricane Katrina that hit Louisiana and Texas. It was responsible for the deaths of millions, hundreds. Not millions, hundreds. I don't have to hold it into any degree beyond that. I don't have to add morality to responsibility. That's an assumption that they go hand in hand.
I mean, I'm just going off of what you said. You said it was wrong, but we can move on. You definitely said it was wrong.
Wrong based on today's standards. And today's standards. I didn't say they were wrong in their standard. I said today's standard. And if you was on the Leo Hansberry's symposium, we watched it in the Discord. The Leo Hansberry symposium in the Discord. One of the ladies, I forget which one, actually described the same problem when it came to did the people sacrifice people in the early pre-dynastic and early dynastic Egypt. And she actually explains that that's one of the problems when science addresses this, is that they have to be trained not to do this idealism of my morality today judges the morality of those in the past. If you were on that symposium, she explains the problem with that. And so I'm not going to commit that act because I want to be scientifically literate. And so scientifically literate is I don't take my moral judgments today and infuse them in people in the past, because their rationality was their rationality.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, determinism doesn't allow for that kind of flexibility. Compatibilism allows for that kind of flexibility. That's why compatibilism is the side of determinism that actually deals with, are people responsible, morally responsible, accountable, however you'd like to put that. So I feel I'm asking you if you notice that there's a possible contradiction in what you're saying, when in the beginning of your paragraph, you would acknowledge that, of course, you're not happy with it, and you have to be honest about you can't hold. I'm not going to use the words that you used. I didn't write them down, but in a sense, you can't hold to the sentiments behind how you feel about it, right? But then you would move on. So basically, you started off by saying that you can't hold the people accountable for their actions because of determinism, and then you would go on to finish your paragraph saying that what they did was actually wrong. There's a little bit of a contradiction there.
So it's not. It's your assumptions about what determinism is and what it's not, and it's attempt to straw man, right? Because determinism is cause and effect, and so I can honestly say that action by those people at that time has affected the way I am today. I can honestly, and that's still determinism. I don't know how you get it. And I noticed that you keep throwing in moral responsibility when I'm saying responsible. They're not the same thing. You keep making them the same thing. You keep saying it has to be a moral responsible. And then I gave you an example of how you can hold something not morally responsible and yet look at the actions that were committed, such as a hurricane, such as an earthquake, such as a tsunami. The earthquake caused these deaths and was responsible for these people dying or losing their home or anything, and then address that effect without holding the disgust of a hurricane or a volcano. That's all we're saying.
Right. So with that being said, the way that you're describing it is that you would use the word accountable, but you would subtract the sentiments, right? You're saying accountable. Like, let's say we're talking about the hurricane. You're using the word accountable. I wouldn't use that. I would say that nature is the cause of the hurricane, and the hurricane did X, Y, Z. I wouldn't call the hurricane responsible. But just to move on in the conversation, you're saying that you wouldn't say the hurricane is responsible and then say that the hurricane was wrong. But in the act of slavery, because of our disposition of today, you're going to call it wrong. But that's kind of a contradiction. I mean, I kind of want to move on. It's really not that big of a thing, but that's absolutely how I got into the conversation and what motivated me to start really learning.
Right.
But I feel like you're kind of dressing it up a little bit, but maybe I'm the only one who sees that. So we can move on.
Maybe you're making assumptions based on what you feel as though people should say or feel about it. I gave you a prime example of how you can hold somebody or something responsible without adding the moral disgust that you're implying. I just gave you an example.
Okay.
That's just it. Okay. You're adding the moral disgust to it. You're saying I have to be morally disgusted by these acts. And I'm saying, I don't think I'm saying is that if these things have occurred, and let me tell you this too. I love how you took people out of nature. How you can assume that nature can cause a hurricane, but nature can't cause how people act. I love how you did that.
I don't remember doing that, but for sure.
You just said it
for sure.
This is exactly what you said. Your exact point was, I wouldn't say it was responsible. I would say that nature just caused these actions. And I'm saying that that's my position as well. That I hold people to this degree that humans are part of nature. And just like nature moves, we move based on that same principle.
So can I get you to conclude with you're not morally disgusted by slavery? Can I get you to go ahead and say that?
Say what? I'm sorry. Say that again.
Can I get you to go ahead and just say you're not morally disgusted by slavery?
I'm not morally disgusted by people in the past and the decisions and choices that they made.
I like how you dressed that up.
The scientists who promote this idea say, as well as the scientists in Egyptology, as archaeology, anthropology, biology, genetics, all those scientists that say the exact same thing I say, I stand in agreement with them.
I mean,
Can I ask a question real quick, Logic? Does the word responsibility and accountability, are they the same? Because you use them interchangeably. And this whole point about slavery is actually a non sequitur. That last question was absolutely non sequitur.
I agree. The conversation about slavery is not quite as important as I first originally thought it was, but it's important to me because I feel like my sentiments are very valuable. Right. I am absolutely not willing to just give up my actual life experience to science in on that particular regard. Right. So just me being honest, I'm just going to tell you the straight up truth. So with that being said, no, accountability and responsibility are not interchangeable. Right. So if I were to try to be more accurate, right, I guess you could say that the hurricane is responsible, but not accountable, if I were to be accurate, right? And I thought, I'm not sure if I didn't say that, but yes, to be more accurate, the hurricane would be responsible and not accountable.
Yeah, and I'm afraid it's been stated before, but it seems to be the foundation of your argument, which is a which is a category fallacy. When we are discussing whether free will exists or not, we are discussing mechanism, and you're arguing the consequences. If this philosophical concept isn't factual, then these are the consequences. And I think that is a category fallacy, because we're having two different discussions. The moral discussion which you're trying to have doesn't establish or provide any evidence for free will being an actual thing.
It doesn't. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not actually making that attack on that front. My initial understanding of how I interpret what was being said is that I could immediately understand that there was a problem with accountability in determinism. I could absolutely see that. I could absolutely see that once you take the I am not the source of my actions out of my hands, then you can no longer say I'm accountable for what my actions produce, because I'm not the source of my actions. You have to go to the source, right? That would be who was accountable for what I did or responsible. I'm trying to not make it super confusing, but yes, I do understand the difference between the two words. So yes, it is absolutely not a front to really make a huge stand on, but I feel like if that is the case, it is really not that serious, then I should just be able to get all y'all to just say that y'all are not morally disgusted by slavery, but y'all don't. But again, I'm willing to move on. Not really that serious. I got a whole lot more stuff. No, I'm not a straw man.
For what?
Wait a minute. Let's slow down. I don't want so much of us engaging logic as far I need Marcus, Chilembwe and logic to engage. Cedric, no disrespect.
I hear you.
I'm going to give us some time, but I want them to get it in for a little bit, okay? And we could just take notes and then address it later. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Juju.
Thank you. And before we move further, I have a couple of people that have joined the panel. One, I have Brass, who is a Pseudo Killer Army Colonel, Sergeant, Captain, and Major. If you'd like to,
the General.
General. Thank you, Logic. I forgot the General. So if you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience, briefly, go right ahead, Brass, and then I'll introduce our next guest.
Hey, what's going on? I'm just here in support. This is Brass. I'm just making sure that I understand everything, and if I got a question, I'm not putting it in the chat, just asking it personally. And it's Chilembwe, man. Chilembwe.
Yo, that's an inside joke, y'all. Thank you, Brass. I appreciate correction. I always appreciate correction. And
okay.
Yo, Marcus will let me know. So, Chilembwe. And also we have to the panel, and I invited him because of his feedback in the chat. So I think this would be good and also interesting is I invited Notes. So if you would like to briefly introduce yourself to the audience and to PK, please do at this moment. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Leandre, philosopher. So anyway, I was just chiming in. Shout out to Teddy. Teddy dropped me the link, so I just decided to watch. So
what up? So are you an official philosopher?
Yeah. So I've presented philosophical research at my alma mater, for example. Part of which actually had to do with the subject under discussion today, and it was actually related to praise and blame. So that's why I was so tuned in. It was taken.
Go ahead. I won't finish. Yeah. I'm just astounded that somebody actually understands that praise and blame is a part of the conversation. Amazing. But look, I'm glad you're here, bro.
That's why I felt like maybe you have someone else who has a ball in your court also. So
Hey, look, but that's crazy that he is a philosopher and he understands that praise and blame is a part of the conversation. And I gotta fight with y'all for months and tell y'all praise and blame. But you know what? We're not gonna talk about that right now. We're not gonna do that right now. I'm keeping it together. Let me do let me do my little presentation part right quick.
I need you to hold your excitement and let him finish, please, for the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, so as I was saying, so some of the research that I presented, it was on the topic of compatibilism, really, and moral blameworthiness and praise, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's why I was interested in the topic. So I've watched for so long. It was an interesting discussions.
Thank you. And can I ask what your alma mater is, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, well, so that one that I'm talking about, that's Fresno Pacific University. Fresno Pacific University, highest per capita enrollment of philosophy students, philosophers, and the highest rate of published philosophy students as undergraduates.
Okay.
As well. So shout out to Dr. Nathan Carson over at Fresno Pacific. But yeah, that's where I did the undergraduate.
Nice. And I have maybe one more question for you, then we'll let them get back to it. So who would you recommend that people consult with as far as literature, readings, to understand better about the quote unquote free will argument, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a really interesting one. Matthew Talbert has an edited work called Moral Responsibility. So Matthew Talbert is a really good one. His work was one of the principal ones I used. I know when looking at the sort of free will discussion. So Matthew Talbert.
Nice.
Matthew Talbert.
Yeah, Talbert. He has a little blue book. Matter of fact, hang on. It's this one here. Moral Responsibility by Matthew Talbert.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
By Matthew Talbert. If I can find the link for the audience, I'll definitely drop it in the chat. So give me a minute. Thank you again for being here. Notes and check the private chat, because I have some other things that I want to mention here out loud for you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we do continue, I just want to shout out everybody who's joined us here today, because I know you could have been anywhere else, like watching football, but you're actually getting your intellectualism in by joining us for this conversation. So, of course, shout out to Chilembwe, and Logic. I mean, extreme shout out to these gentlemen. We've been going back and forth with this discussion for quite some time, right? And these gentlemen have shown an amazing process of due diligence to this argument, to supporting their views and their claims on the discussion. So I just want to commend both of you, and I thank both of you for basically facilitating growth and learning on this particular topic in the server amongst Pseudo Killer and the Pseudo Killer Army, and all of those who join our shows faithfully. So I just want to thank you. Take this moment to thank you so much, because even for me personally, I had no idea. I mean, I tell people all the time, I know nothing about philosophy. I'm definitely a baby in Pampers when it comes to this discussion, but thankfully to you two, I have no choice but to immerse myself and learn as much as I can, right? To actually get it and understand, so I appreciate that. And also I just want to shout out Pseudo Killer official Cedric Ortega. Thank you always for being here. I love that you can offer a scientific side to the conversation, and for balance. I saw notes in the chat, and my spidey senses went off, and I just knew it was something to that. Like, he definitely has a handle on the conversation, and he just told us that he definitely has a philosophical position. on it. So I think that's a great balance. And Brass, you're just a bomb. You're just smart and you're brilliant. And I appreciate all the great minds that I'm constantly around every day. But let's shout out to Lisa Bennett. She's Pseudo Killer Army, Lady Killer Official, Phoenix Rising. You already know what it is, sis. I love how you think. I love your mind. And thank you for always joining. Gina, that's definitely my sister, my North African sister. We be getting it in with the ladies in Bitterman conversation. Joe Armstrong, I appreciate you tonight. Stimuli God, boy, you're an interesting one. And you definitely keep it spicy, but it doesn't matter because all in all, you always support this type of programming, and I appreciate that. We got Posterius Thought in the building, always adding his intellect and his additions to the conversation, especially in the Discord. Very intelligent mind. Bawana, if I'm saying that wrong, please do accept my apology, or just hit the link anytime when we, make it to everybody and help me pronounce that right. I might get it wrong a few times, but I do appreciate you coming over here. You said you got introduced to me from Chris Harris' show, and I'm saying that to make a point, and I think some people understand what I mean by that. But I do appreciate you coming and supporting us in this conversation. Gemini the Goddess, you already know what it is. Nothing but hearts and flowers to you. Adrian Padilla, thank you. Always supporting the channel, always supporting the platform. Mac Rob, Pseudo Killer Official, always getting it in. And I don't want to take too long, but for those of you that I've missed, my apologies. Oh, gosh. Hey, fam, Strive 777. What up, fam? Yeah, thank you. So I want to continue on with the conversation. And now that we have other people on the panel, I'm going to mix it up a bit, okay? So I'm going to use you, Cedric, and you Notes, and I hope you don't mind. And I'll start with you Notes since, we've met you and you're new and you're a guest in the house. I'll say that. So first of all, tell me when you were listening, or did you catch it? Do you know each person's position? Like, do you know Logic's position on the conversation? And do you clearly know Chilembwe's position on the conversation? Like, where do they stand as far as hard determinism or compatibilism or fatalism or whatnot? If you know where they two stand, then fine, I can ask my question. If not, I'll clarify you at this moment.
Yes, ma'am. I do know where they both stand.
Okay, so I wanted you to go ahead and ask each one of them a question, if you don't mind, and we'll get it in from there.
Yeah. So I do think that the question that Logic was asking, it is an actual very important, pertinent question. It certainly has major rhetorical value, but and philosophical value as well. Is there ever a situation where, and this isn't to Logic, this is to Chilembwe. I don't want to be disturbed with the pronunciation name, but to the other brother, is there ever a situation where it's absolutely wrong to rape a child? Ever?
Can you ask that again?
Is there ever a situation? Is it ever wrong to rape a child? Absolutely wrong for all time. Can at any point in time can we look back at an act of the past and say if they raped a child, someone who didn't consent, is that ever morally wrong?
To society standards, absolutely.
Right, but that's not my question. My question is it ever actually wrong? Not based on the subject. I'm asking is it objectively wrong to rape children?
Objectively wrong?
Let's not use the R word, try to, preface the difference. Great or something like that. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to get the channel strike.
Yeah, no problem. Is it ever wrong to violate a child in that most intimate fashion? Or matter of fact, I don't want to say violate. Is it ever wrong to do that to a child?
Socially, I would say absolutely. The development of how humans developed, the natural hormones that are released would naturally lead us to avoid such heinous acts.
Okay.
Science in and of itself, objectively, is not about right and wrong. right and wrong is solely based in human interaction. So as human interactions, I would say yes. Scientifically, objectively, there's no right and wrong. It just is what it is.
Okay. Can I ask the brother a follow-up?
Absolutely.
So I'm stranded on an island with a woman. For all I know, the rest of the human population has ceased to exist after some nuclear war or something like that, which wouldn't be morally wrong either. But let's say we're on this island. I'm on the island with a woman who's not remotely attracted to me. She doesn't wish to procreate. My concern, scientifically, is to continue the human species. There is no societal order that's around. I'm concerned with propagating the human species. So there would be no issue because there's no society that exists and no scientific reason for me not to violate that woman, correct?
No. Again, I said that there are also chemical processes that lead to certain things and effects in the brain. So we cannot exclude that either. So if we're the fifth, we all be drunk. I'm not going to get into the wordsmith games that philosophers like to use. The bottom line is that human beings are efficiently a part of nature, no different, none less, nothing more complex. But the mechanisms that we find in nature are the same mechanisms that's used in humans. And that's just what my position is. I'm not going to do the if game. I'm just not going to do that. Philosophers like to do that, They like to do those type things. If a neuroscientist plants a bug in a person's mind and that then it likes to use. I'm not going to get into those wordsmith games. The bottom line is that human beings function on the same principles and practices of nature. There's no point inside where you can find something different. The same mechanisms that fire a neuron in a human brain is the same mechanisms that fire neurons in a primate brain and a rat's brain, and that is my position. I'm not doing the if-then game. Find somebody else to play that.
Well, I will just say in response to that this is one of philosophical conversation. Determinism and compatibilism, these are schools of philosophical thought. They don't really have a place in the modern empirical sciences, which came from 1621, Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes. They don't really get into causes anyway, so it's 100% a philosophical conversation. The thing that you do in philosophy as well anyway is when someone makes a position like that, you provide what's called a counter argument because you're testing the consistency of the theory. And so if you simply refuse to answer, right, then that sort of typically signifies to logicians and philosophers that there's an inconsistency there, or an unwillingness to hold to that consistency. And so when there's something like, what we described as happening to a child in that sense, or to a woman on a remote island where there is no governmental society to establish such things, and you actually have 50-50, for and against such a proposition, we do need an answer as to whether we're going to continue the propagation of the human species or if we're going to allow it to die off. I do not think you're going to be able to give the chemical makeup that would make it wrong or anything like that, because or that would say that it's you shouldn't do so. Again, that would smuggle in morality, which you don't have a basis for. But so I do just want to say that it's very telling that you didn't want to answer the question. But
that it would not smuggle in morality. I think you ran down the hill with that. Okay. And the reason why is because morality is simply a social construct, and you said there wasn't no social existence at the time. And again, you say that we're having a philosophical conversation, and to some degree, I can agree with that. But that philosophical conversation, I'm talking about what is empirically found to be true today. And so I'm going to deal with just the evidence that we have. If y'all enjoy the philosophical thought experiment, hey, have fun with it. That is not my position or place.
Yeah, so the only problem is that, again, this is 100%, it's not part of this 100% philosophical. And two, the thing is that when you smuggle in an ought, right? So when you talked about the chemical reaction things in the brain, you assume, without giving any evidence for a reason, that we should be guided by what it is that we find. But that actually takes all sorts of interpretation. And it takes saying that, hey, whatever this particular thing is, that this thing is a necessary good. But you can't tell me, so if the brain reacts in a certain way, right, that's just atoms moving in a certain fashion. That doesn't tell me what I ought to do. And philosophers note this as the is-ought distinction. So with the modern empirical sciences, what you can tell me is what is. You cannot tell me what I ought to do based on that. So when you try to invoke chemical reaction or anything like that, well, that unless you're going to smuggle in that this reaction is good or bad or something like that, or even like the propagation of continuing life or something like that, or that those, that chemical reaction is bad, whatever that response is to that violation, that should necessarily guide me. You've smuggled in morality because you tell me what I ought to do based on what is. And you don't have a basis for that.
No. We know that certain chemicals released in the brain or certain periods create social bonding, and based on those principles is where this conversation is, where I'm gonna have it at. We can do the word jargon thing that they do if that's what you want to do, but the bottom line is that in society, our interactions, those principles, those interactions develop moral compasses. Those moral compasses are subject to the society and interactions of the people at that time. That's my position. And as time changes, as things change, as time changes, as moralities changes, as our perception changes, so do our understanding of morality, our morals. So if you were going to look at, let's take an instance, schizophrenia, how they handle schizophrenia at one point in time, how they handle those cases of schizophrenia. They handle it in a specific way as science advances and technology advances and our understanding of the brain and its mechanisms advance. We no longer handle that in the same way. So our morals change. And so while I will always understand, right? I will always understand that at this time, some scientists, some people will always argue that they need more evidence. Some scientists, some philosophers say there's enough evidence present now. That's the case of the point. But that doesn't now change my position. You can throw out 1,000 different scenarios, and I'm just going to stick to the objective reality of what some scientists and philosophers say right now, which is that free will is an illusion.
Yeah. So
wait. I have to moderate. So I don't want this to be a back and forth between you, Notes, and Chilembwe. I wanted to stick it with logic. I invited you on because I understand your philosophical point of view and your experience, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to make it that. So if you could just hold that or take notes, I'll allow some more engagement later on in the discussion, but not at this time, respectfully. Please and thank you. But because you and Cedric are on opposite sides of the conversation, if Cedric, at this time, would you like to respond to some things that was said?
Yes, I would. When we're discussing mechanisms, again, philosophically, the concept of free will seems rational and seems applicable. However, when it's put to the test with the advance of scientific technology, and we understand that nature is causal, there is no way to separate action from the brain. This is a hard deterministic point. And now when we interject morality, when we interject arts, it doesn't speak to the mechanism. It speaks to the moral consequences of action. However, the conversation is, how does that action occur? What are these mechanisms, and how do we engage with them? And there is no evidence or no substantiation for the position coming from the philosophical side. They are just arguments stating, well, if this is not, then this is, and how do we quantify or justify this? Which is not the argument that we're having. We're discussing mechanism. And when we're discussing mechanism, there is no way to get around the deterministic nature of reality.
May I respond to that?
I'll let you respond.
Yeah, that's incorrect, because and I know there was an improper use of non sequitur before. That is a non sequitur. There is no philosophical school whatsoever that I know of that denies cause. So whether you could be talking about the libertarian free will position, and none of them is going to deny cause and effect or anything like that. And so it doesn't necessitate that hard determinism is the route because there's cause and effect in nature or anything else. That's just that is a non sequitur. It doesn't logically and necessarily follow that you end up a hard determinist because there's an action, a reaction, anything like that. That's just not true. The compatibilist doesn't deny cause and effect either.
Okay. Before we continue, we have the God Killer in the building. Bobby Banger. What it do, fam? Holla at the people real quick.
What it do, Serial Killers Official? I thought I was tuned into the wrong damn show. Heard the music playing. I'm thinking, where the hell is Logic? And man, I want to see the damn way in. Man, goodness gracious. What?
Well, you missed the first 30
Good
minutes.
Good show though. But
Thank you. But I felt like Logic needed he needed some teammates, and I feel like
who Logic don't need no
damn
Logic.
Teammates. I mean, Mike's got some teammates, man. Come on now.
Nah, but not now. Not in the weigh-in. It's the weigh-in, yo.
It is the weigh-in.
No help.
But hey, still
need no help. Trust me, Logic don't need no help.
But we getting back to it. We got it under control here.
What is that noise playing? What is that? What is that, Juju?
That's called background music. That's to set the
really?
mood. Yeah.
Wow. That seemed like something we picked up along the way. Hell nah. All right,
God Killer, you just always make trouble, don't you? You just always make trouble, don't you?
I was at the club, yo. I say,
what's up,
dancing and shit. I was dancing.
Go ahead. You can clown. You don't like my beat, God Killer?
Shit. I was like,
you don't like that beat?
I'm in the floor dancing right now. I am, yo. Look, y'all can't see
the two-step going. Got the two-step going. Look at him.
Hey. Oh God, that's hilarious. No, we like to get lots of fun when we're learning too. Just to let you know, we some nerds, but we some cool nerds. Just to let you know. So, we don't like to be so uptight on it because we also have a certain audience that we're trying to appeal to. You feel me? So we like to be relaxed, but we know how to act. It's necessary.
I'm looking at that football game. Big up to the Ravens, though.
Oh
right?
Man,
I'm trying to see who's gonna get it next.
I'm finna mute you. I'm not. Look, I'm not doing it. I want to get back to the conversation. Shout out to him though. That's who I'll be going for because my team's out. But we're not finna do that.
I know. Let's go, hey, Logic. Let's go, yo. I'm counting on you.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate you, man. What's up with you, by the way, man? Hey, man. I could definitely take over from here, but I really appreciate the brother coming in.
I know you do.
And eloquently putting the onus back on responsibility because I've been having a lot of trouble convincing people that that's where the conversation really needs to be. And then here we get a professional in here, and the first thing he talking about, the only thing he talking about. But I don't gotta hang up on that. I got some stuff better than that. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready. I need about a good 5 minutes right quick to walk y'all through, to walk y'all up to exactly where the pressure is, right? And why it don't look like that's what it's gonna be because I've been kind of holding it back, but I need to be able to share my screen, to be able to show a few things and explain why I keep asking my peers to get out of the ivory tower of the definition of free will, right? And bring it back to earth a little bit as far as what the requirements are for somebody to just be able to at least be able to make choices in society that can, to where their ability, their actions can be held accountable. Like that's not very complicated, right? I'm not trying to say that we're not biological organisms that function under some biological restrictions. That'd be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But can I share my screen or do I just need to post it in the back chat so you can put it up?
I mean, go ahead. You can actually share your screen.
I don't see how to do that.
Are you on your phone?
I am on my phone. Does that prevent me from doing that?
So we'll talk later. You need to be on your laptop. So go ahead and place it in the private chat, and
all right.
do my best to help.
I might have to just put it in the back chat.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat in the thing.
Is there anything that you want to say or respond to or comment on my background music while Logic is getting that together? I'll give you a few minutes.
I'm not saying anything about them. I know you was going there. No, I think anything is different. I think it's different. So let's try it. But in philosophy, and that's why, you know, in these conversations that we've been having in the Discord, we've been going back and forth with philosophy, science, and different things. The one reason why I'm not a big fan of science per se, of philosophy per se, is because, you know, it tends to get real wordy, the word usages, the meanings, and different things, and then you're kind of not having a debate. You're kind of just playing word salad. So I don't really play the if game. I think maybe if y'all are really gonna have this debate next Friday, hypothetical things and all of that, while they have their place, don't get me wrong, they do have their place. But in this particular conversation, when you're doing compatibilism versus determinism, it seems like a compatibilist only defense is to just stick in definitions of free will and responsibility and moral and technical and all that. So I just kind of want to see where it's going past all of that and see if we can get into a debate. But go ahead, Logic, do your 5 minutes, G.
While he waits, can I respond to that about what philosophy is?
I didn't say what philosophy was, but you could definitely speak.
Well, what philosophy is, and what because you were saying, you were talking about philosophy getting wordy and about defining things and things like that. I will just say that there's three basic kinds of sciences.
Yes.
The highest of which are the philosophical sciences. Above that is the mathematical sciences, and underneath that is the modern empirical sciences. The modern empirical sciences are limited because they only deal with what you can get from the five senses. But the modern empirical sciences depend on both the mathematical sciences. Like you don't look under a microscope and see 2 + 2 = 4. That is a priori analytic discussion, meaning that it's not anything that you're going to find via empirical testing or data. That's not how you get numbers or math or anything like that. You assume those when you do any sort of science. So even though, and I realize philosophy itself is elitist because it gets into those sorts of areas, but they make all the difference. The science that we have right now, modern empirical science, is the product of two philosophers, Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes. Those are the fathers of modern empirical science. You don't get around philosophy. You simply have to assume so much of what you do when you're talking about modern empirical sciences. And you depend on some philosophical framework to do so. So I just want to say philosophy is a necessity if you're going to do science whatsoever.
Chilembwe.
So Brad, that same question was, we did a show with Richard Carrier. We did a show with Richard Carrier, and this same thing was brought up, right? And I'm going to touch on this exact thing about philosophy, the philosophy of science, different positions involving that versus naturalism, philosophical naturalism, and the different degrees in which science takes when it comes to the philosophy of science. I am not a fan of the wordsmith stuff, though. I agree with you in that. They, bombard you with 1,000 different thought experiments. But the thinking and the processes by which you question is, in its essence, philosophical. And there are certain assumptions that they take place in. There are certain assumptions that science takes place in. One of the assumptions is that you can know, right? Let me see if I can pull this up right quick. I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to read it. I don't have to. I don't want to sell until Logic get ready.
I'm here. I'm here and I'm back. I got all the stuff. I put it in the Discord of what I needed to share. It's only 5 pages. No. I'm only going to speak real quickly on each one of them. It's not going to be like a big thing.
Okay, give me just a minute. Oh, Logic, you have to send me links there. This is
I
not
have to
going
do what?
links. I need links.
You need links? Okay.
Yes. You doing? I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna do that to you. If you was anybody else, boy, but no, I need links. I can't do it like that.
What you want it in the back chat, not the actual Discord chat?
Yeah, it would be actually easier if you just put it in the private chat here.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
And I'll put them in order.
Can you talk at the same time, or you need some time? Because I don't want
just one second. I mean, I can talk, but I can talk and not
take your time. As much as I appreciate notes, what you have to offer, I don't want to overwhelm the conversation with that dialogue. I hope you understand.
No, that's cool.
So I'm just gonna read this while Logic gets his information ready. Hopefully he'll have it together when it's time next Friday. So here's one of the examples of what we're talking about. You have methodological naturalism, very similar. Then you have philosophical naturalism. There are certain assumptions that you need in science. The world is predictable, therefore ultimately knowable. It doesn't necessarily dictate that things are true, but requires assumption that they can be true. Let's see, what's another one? There is, for example, objective reality. If we weren't living in an objectively real universe, then it would be not possible to investigate how the universe works. So these are certain things that we take from philosophy to be that we use in science. So there is some question, not really questions in the demarcation line, more so it was born out of these conversations. So you'll never be able to get all the philosophy out of science. But that don't mean you got to subject yourself to the wordsmith.
Can let me ask you a question right quick, yo. So when you suggest, right, and I know you've been reading on this a very, very long time. So as a determinist, when you suggest that my will is not free, what are you suggesting that my will is not free from? What exactly are you saying there?
Prior causes.
Now, why would I need my will to be free from prior causes to be held responsible or accountable for my actions? Why would that be why is that a necessary benchmark for determining whether I can be responsible for my actions or not?
Say that again. I don't understand you.
Right. So why would my actions need to be free from prior causes for my actions to be deemed, or for me to be held responsible or accountable for my actions? Why would that be a requirement? Why does that make sense?
I'm sorry, Logic. I dropped out for a second.
Okay, so the question is, why would my actions need to be
Can y'all hear me?
free? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear
Logic,
me?
you need to
I can hear both of you clearly.
Okay. I need you to say it again, Logic. I dropped out.
It's cool. It's cool. So my question is, why would my actions need to be free from prior causes in order for me to be able to be held socially accountable or responsible for my actions? Why do both of those things, or why is that necessary for me to be free of prior causes in order for me to be held responsible for my actions? Why is that?
Is somebody talking? What's going on?
Can you hear me, Juju?
Marcus,
did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. Marcus, maybe you need to drop out and come back in because we hear him clearly. I don't know what difficulty you're having.
Okay.
While we're waiting on Marcus, real quick, I'll do a little stalling, and I'm going to read a few comments from the chat and respond to them. Probably some of the the funnier ones and not some of the serious ones. So I'll let you know now. But American Dream had a comment: Bobby kills God and Juju kills ladies. No, American Dream. I'm a killer and I'm a lady. That's what. Just to clear it up. Okay. So in that respect, lady killer in the building. I hope that clears it up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Marcus, go ahead and touch your mic.
Can y'all hear me?
Louder.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right.
Right. Can you hear me? More importantly.
Yes.
So this is where we left off at, right? I asked you what is my will free of? And your response was that it's free from prior causes. And I asked you, why would my will need to be free of prior causes in order for my actions to be held accountable? Why is that a necessity that my actions need to be free from prior causes in order for my actions to be held accountable?
Well, let me. Are we talking about being held accountable for actions committed, or are we talking about moral responsibility? Which one are you asking about? I want to be clear which one you mean.
I'll actually give you carte blanche here, and you answer however you want to.
Okay. So when we talk about prior causes, or at least in that reference to determinism, what they're really saying is that your will is shaped by prior events, so much so that there is, how can I say it? No you to control it. And so that's ultimately the position of determinants, that all these influences have shaped what we will call the will, what we're going to call the will, that there is no you to control those shapings. And so that's ultimately the position of it. You may recognize the will, you may recognize the happenings of it, but you, I'm putting air quotes in, aren't the author of that. From a hard determinist point of view. That doesn't necessarily mean that we turn a blind eye to actions. That's not what it means, but we'll talk about that in the debate.
Okay. I'm under the impression I love the way you dress up answers, man. Boy, you cold at that shit. I ain't gonna lie to you. But look, so what I'm under the impression of is that when free will is its own trap in the way that it would invite a person to answer the question in a way that would allude to they are able to make choices in some non-physical way, right? Which is the trap that I'm very well aware of, which is what makes, to me, seems to come very simply. That's not difficult for me to detect that. It may be more difficult for me to describe it to other people, but I absolutely see that is the trap of trying to chase free will, right? For me to try to claim that I have quote unquote 100% free will, I have to then say that I'm operating outside of biology. And I think that is a bit ridiculous. And I'm trying to use pejoratives here, but I'm an atheist, right? Like I wouldn't make a claim that says that I'm operating outside of biology. So long story short, right, I have put together a presentation that is absolutely going to allow me to explain decision making in a very natural way, right? And it's also going to line up with the definition of compatibilism in the way it agrees with determinism, but gives me the freedom, right? I'm just saying air quotes, to be able to make decisions or weigh my options and be accountable for my actual actions. And it doesn't say that I'm in some sort of a fixed mental state to where I'm only responding to environmental stimuli and I can't be held responsible for actions. And the easiest way to actually explain that is when you look at people who have deficiencies, right? When you look at people who are cognitive control deficient, right? Like, for example, if I ask you to go turn the lights on and you bring me back a toothbrush, right? And then when I get the toothbrush, I ask you, hey, do you know what the light switch is? And then you respond, yes. Well, I wouldn't immediately say that you have a lack of free will, but I might actually be able to detect that you have some cognitive issues, some mental issues, right? Like you actually are having a physical issue, but your free will, like, I mean, I wouldn't call it that, right? And I don't think science would call it that. So when you go into the pigeonhole of what it is to have free will, and then when you belong to the scientific community, you know, that we are establishing here on YouTube, the pseudo killers, this is what we do. We look at the science, we look at the experiments. It's almost fringe to even say people have free will, right? When you look at what you are attempting to force me to say, my will is free, right? Like, do I have the freedom to become an elephant? Of course not, right? But simply because I have constraints on the way I can operate, it does not mean that I do not have the ability to weigh options and make decisions. So with that being said, Juju, can you share the Ivory Tower link for me real quickly? I'm gonna be real quick with all the links, but I do need to kind of go through. I'm gonna actually read it. I'm gonna read it real quick, right? An ivory tower is a metaphorical place, right? Or an atmosphere where people are happily cut off from the rest of the world in their own pursuits, usually mental, esoteric ones. From the 19th century, it has been used to designate an environment of intellectual pursuit, to disconnect from practical concerns of everyday life. Damn, that sounds like free will, bro. So in order for my will to be free, I gotta be a non-biological organism. I gotta operate outside of nature, and ain't nobody saying that. I sure ain't saying that. I definitely am not saying that we are not constrained by biology, and we are not having biological processes that leads to things like intent or volition, because this is what science is actually talking about, right? So let's go to the very next one right quick, Juju. I want to look at the Britannica compatibilism. We'll go through that one real quick, right quick. I'm not falling for the traps. I got you. Juju, you heard me? Okay. Right. So at the last sentence on this, right? Or where is it? The compatibilist need not desert.
Do I need to go to a certain spot?
No, that's where I wanted to be at. So at the very top of the page, right? In most cases, compatibilists, also called soft determinists, attempt to achieve this by reconciliation by subtly revising or weakening the common sense notion of free will. I thought I did a really good job of that just now, right? Where I explained where I don't actually need to to work outside of biology to explain that inside of biology, I have enough ability, cognitive ability, right, to be able to make choices in society. And I have the ability to actually choose one option or another, even though that there's a reward and dopamine system working. It doesn't exclude any of these options. It may make it more likely that I choose one option or another, but it certainly does not prevent me from making any options. If that were the case, how would you be able to break habits? Habit forming is all about a dopamine reward system, right? People smoke cigarettes because it gives them a reward. And then one day they figure out they reconstruct this. This is neuroplasticity at its finest. Neuroplasticity is a flexible, adaptive trait that people have. That's real. Like that's actually something that you really can't refute. Right? So I spent very little time on that, right? So I want you to scroll down to the conclusion now. To the conclusion in like the very last sentence of the conclusion on the same article, Juju. Just pass it up. A little bit higher. Right there. All right, so right here in the conclusion, it says humans may not be free to as great an extent as the intuitive notion of free will suggest. But there is no other freedom to be had. Addressing the problem of free will and moral responsibility keeps coming up, requires establishing guidelines for holding people accountable and not lunging after some impossible notion of free will. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of staying to the letter of what compatibilism is actually talking about, right? So now I'm gonna read from one of my sources that Marcus was actually kind enough to uncover from me, and I'm gonna make it really quick, and then I'm gonna go into my last point and give up the floor here, right? So this source is the 2008 Patrick Haggard article about volition, human volition towards a neuroscience of will, right? In this paragraph here, it says deciding between motor tasks seems to involve the frontal cortex. Evidence of this comes from two neuropsychological conditions that are seen in people with both frontal lobe damage, particularly damage that involves the pre-SMA, it's a part of the brain. Patients who exhibit utilitization behavior, compulsively grab and use objects in their immediate environment. Clinical reports suggest that they select as their task goal whatever is most salient in their current environment. That's most important. That's what salient means. Even when the object is not specifically drawn to their attention. In patients with anarchy, basically anarchy hand syndrome, a unilateral frontal lesion leads to the contralateral hand automatically reacting to a current stimuli, even when the patient explicitly states that they will not perform an action in question. Importantly, experimental studies for reaching show that even when these patients are instructed to perform a specific motor task, movements of their affected hand are captured by competing tasks, such as reaching for distractors. Moreover, action decisions made by patients with lesions in this area show unusual sensitivity to visual primes that are masked so as to be imperceptible. In healthy participants, flashing a brief mask prime before their actions increased reaction times when the mask was compatible with the instructed stimuli. Owning owing to automatic inhibition of the motor programs. They are evoked by non-predictive and irrelevant primes. By contrast, in a patient with the brain disorder lesions, max primes sped up the sequential motor response. This suggests that normal function in the brain is to suppose automatic responding to a current environmental stimulus, and with patients with the brain injury, therefore hypersensitive, right? So pull up my very last thing.
Damn, we just lost him. He was smoking too, getting hot. Oh man, Logic, come back.
You smoking like a '57 Chevy.
Come back, Logic.
I'm glad he's actually showing sources though. I think that's a good place to go. And I'm gonna put the links in the chat. So I appreciate that he's actually reading sources. I think that's great.
Yeah, Brass, do that for me because I can't DJ, moderate, and text on my phone. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look, my bad. Look, I don't got my stuff with me, but that's my fault. I can take my lip. Right? I'm responsible for that. I'm accountable for doing that. It wasn't y'all. I can't say it was nobody but me.
Because I think I've said it 1,000 times when we do shows, it's more important to be on your laptop and not your phone. Even an iPad is better, okay? But hey, y'all want to be hard-headed. Y'all don't never try. Y'all don't never listen to Juju. So I'm gonna let y'all learn. But continue. What was it is? And I want to come on now, Logic. Now it's two of you.
Yeah, both of us in here. We both gotta we both doing it.
Do you think?
But look, so the last thing I wanted you to pull up the I gave you a link to Wikipedia about the alien hand syndrome.
Yeah,
the alien hand syndrome is probably the last one I need to go over real quick. Be quick. I can hear you. Okay,
pause for a minute. Maybe there's a lag because I've been trying to get you to pause for a minute. I want to address something real quick. So the fact that we have someone like Notes on the piano is a good thing. It challenges what people may think they know about a subject, right? And because someone doesn't agree with what you know, doesn't mean they're being disrespectful. So I don't want us to get in the habit that we want to shut people down who disagree with us. That's not how it works. Disagree.
I'm not.
I'm Logic. I'm not particularly speaking to you. I'm speaking in general. Disagreement is healthy. It forces you to challenge yourself and to know better. So in Pseudo Killers, we pride ourselves on being fair about that. So let's not, relegate that someone's being disrespectful because they're disagreeable or they don't agree with our positions on this subject matter. I just have to say that. That's not what we are. We are not an homogenous group. We're definitely not a cult. We all do not agree on the same thing. And it's actually refreshing to have someone come in and stand on their square about what they know because it's actually their major. Like they went to school for it. So let's have some respect for that. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
No, I agree. Am I going to be able to land this B-52 bomber right quick?
Hurry up. What you want
me to 30 seconds.
Park that 57 Chevy.
I'm saying, go ahead and dock that yacht.
The very last thing, whether you pull it up or not, right? So there is an actual
wait a minute.
sign. The alien hand syndrome. There is an actual scientific circumstance, right? A documented nervous system disorder called the alien hand syndrome, right? Let's see. So you pull it up. So alien hand syndrome is a category of conditions in which a person experiences their limbs acting seemingly on their own without conscious control, right, over their actions. There are a variety of clinical conditions that fall into this category. I don't even think I really need to go much further than that, right? So I mean, I could. But the point actually is that science would say a healthy person does have control over their limbs, John. Right? So you can't you can't put it all under this umbrella of environment determining people's actions, because there's actually another syndrome called environmental dependency syndrome, where people are only responding, or they're hypersensitive to the environmental stimuli. So that's again science telling you that people under normal circumstances, and that's actually the last link that I sent you, the environmental syndrome, where people actually are healthy people are not under the tyranny of the environment, right? That the environment is not determining their behavior. And that's why I'm gonna give the floor up right there. I mean, that was a lot. Now, I mean, I don't feel like this is a 2,000-year-old conversation without you forcing upon me what free will has to be. Because all I want to know is, if I ask you to turn the lights off, are you gonna bring me back a toothbrush? If that ain't 2,000 years worth of conversation right there, bro, I'm gonna keep it real with you. But I'm gonna reel the floor. I'm gonna let somebody else talk.
Wow, that was amazing. That's exactly why I don't like philosophers, because they go through this long wordsmith to get to a point that no one ever disputed. And I think you ought to find out exactly what determinism is saying. They don't deny the mechanisms in the brain. They just say you don't control those mechanisms. And so you talk about the prefrontal cortex, you're talking about something that developed through evolutionary time. And over the time, it developed to have specific characteristics that are human specific. And I'm going to actually do something that I normally don't do. During this debate, I'm actually going to tell you what makes humans different than other people. Than other primates, and exactly what they currently believe happened involving these neurological networks.
Interesting.
The development of the neurological networks, you didn't have any control over them. Genetic composition that make up the neurological networks, you don't control. The prefrontal cortex that developed over time, you don't control. It is subjected to genetics, environmental influences, and you perceive it as being that. That's something completely different. We're going to talk about why people feel as though they have agency and the networks that are involved in it. But let me make it very clear. We're not denying, we never have denied that the networks in the brain exist. Our argument is the development of those networks over the course of time that brought it to this point. We also, it's known as prior states of the universe. You don't control. You live in those mechanisms. So when something goes wrong with those mechanisms, it's easily recognizable. The issue is what happens when it's not easily recognizable. What happens when it's as simple as you didn't have enough glutamate in your system at the time, or your GABA had just depleted and you made a decision? What did you say about that? And so the ultimate argument is not just causality in its simplest form, but causality in the development of who you say you are. So yes, your prefrontal cortex, the executive function, exists, but you didn't control its mechanisms. Just like he said, neuroplasticity is true. Yes, your brain does adapt. Absolutely. One of the fundamental things that make people is their ability to adapt to numerous different environments, numerous different conditions. But those processes that we're talking about, you don't control. It's a natural mechanism. That's it. There's no you that is doing it. It is your prefrontal cortex, the executive functions. That's all it is. I don't have any more to say. All that, it doesn't disagree with deterministic principle. Until you can show me that logic as an entity changed his prefrontal cortex deliberately to have a separate action. Once you show that, then I can say, okay. But until then, we're just going to go with that. They made assumptions about what human behavior is. And those assumptions are wrong.
Right. So I feel like I did a really, really, really good job of flipping it around, right? See, now you're chasing me, right? Which I feel like I was never really chasing you. I could have sworn I fit the compatibilist definition when I asked you why would I need to operate outside of prior events in order for my actions to be held accountable. Right? That is what I'm talking about. I'm not denying that we are under biological restriction, evolution. And I'm not saying all that. I'm absolutely not saying all that. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to simplify it, right?
Hold on. You added a word that I never said. You said over evolutionary restrictions. I didn't put restrictions. I said that's all it is evolutionary.
That's fine. That's fine.
So that it's not restricted. You're restricted here until the moment of your decision. I never said that. Don't put those words in my mouth. I was very clear. I'm saying all there is
okay. That's
that works in operations, and you have.
I got you.
I'm very
I got
clear
you.
in my position.
So would you say, right, that a person who has Tourette's are responsible or accountable for all of their actions, or does this person scientifically have involuntary actions that they are not in control of? Answer that question.
It's a very simple answer, right? The mechanisms in the brain, right, that normally down-regulate behavior is malfunction. Simple. That's all.
Wow.
Wow. What you saying wow for? I haven't. Let me make everybody understand. I haven't changed my position since 4 months ago when we started this whole conversation. I've been.
It's just the beauty of it all, man. Sometimes it just catches me off guard. I apologize.
You cannot cut him off.
I apologize. It's so beautiful sometimes, you know.
Try to mute. I'll mute you. Okay.
So,
please.
So the issue is in this conversation is that they're strong manning determinism. So they agree. Patrick Haggard. Let's talk about Patrick Haggard. One of the articles he read. Let's talk about Patrick Haggard. One of the articles that he read. Right. Patrick Haggard actually believes that free will is an illusion, just like Sam Harris and all the rest of them. His conditioning is that there's a moment, there's a time where we can make a distinction between eternal, originated, or actions that originate eternally outside of external influences. But determinists don't argue that. They don't argue that. We don't say that there's no will, there's no desire, there's no intent, right? We don't say that. What we say is those things that are that we interpret as being that are out of your control, that they are based upon so many numerous influences that happen, excuse me, in prior states of the universe, that when you come into this thing, right, when you make these arguments, you're arguing against something that is not even determinism. You're actually not even arguing against determinism, because determinism don't deny these processes exist. It just says that you don't control those processes. What does that mean? So I grew up in a home where when you turn this switch on, a light comes on, right? I have a desire for light, right? I then, my brain processes, right? Sets me on the task to do that. That's it. Your brain does it. And since you don't control the development of your brain, you don't control what it does. I mean, what are we getting at? What is it saying? Find me you in genetics. That's all. Find it. Find me where that exists.
Can I talk now? Can I go? So we getting to it. We getting to it now, right? See, like, so once you See, all I want to know is who turned on the lights, right? So you would like to be able to extend that conversation, right? I don't want to get confused about temporal lag. I don't want to get confused about the retrospective agency sensation. I don't want to take the conversation there. That's too much, right? I just want to know who turned on the lights.
Now, see,
that's all. That's what I want to know.
That's the problem there, right? When you say you're talking about agency. You can't separate it. That's where the issue is. That is the issue. You're saying you, and I'm saying your brain. And you have no proof of you. You only have proof of your brain activity. And you don't control the development of your brain. I mean, how?
Wow. You know what's really funny about that, yo? I gotta say this, yo. Because you are the one who charged me with making a dualistic argument, right? And now here you are separating me from my brain. God damn.
Not at all. Not at all. That's what you did. See, I've been saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. I'm sure some people in the audience is probably getting tired of hearing me say it. I've said it numerous times. You don't control the development and firing of neurons in your brain. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. It developed over evolutionary process, over the time. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. You don't control that. So when you say, I want to know who did this, you've already, matter of fact, your own man, Patrick Haggard tells you not to make those statements. He actually says that. Don't do no conscious control, God in them, a ghost in the machine, none of those things. You are your brain, nothing more, nothing less. And since you don't control the development of your brain, you don't control what the influences are to your brain, which functionaries happens. Matter of fact, majority of the sensory information that you receive to your brain, you are unaware of. You don't control none of that.
Right, and he also states that none of that controls me. It only influences my decision. It doesn't determine any of them. Now, so with that being said, hold up, man. So hold up. With that being said, I think we have reached a very, very, very good spot, right? I feel like if people were listening real close, they had to pick up. They had to pick up the stages, right? I think I actually missed one in my article, right? That actually specifically says voluntary actions on Britannica. I forgot to go into that, but whatever, right? I did forget that. But I think we done built up a real good conversation at this point, right? I think you right there where you at, and I'm right there where I'm at, and I'm telling you, based on what you saying, you don't want to make this about who understand that Patrick Haggard article better than the other person, because I'm hearing you keep bringing up Ghost in the Machine and all of this kind of stuff. That ain't gonna do it. I'm telling you,
sir. I would like you to know that I haven't just read the 2008. I read the 2008, the 2011, 2013, 2014, 2018, 2019, and his newest one that he's about to come at that's in pre-release 2024. So I want you to fully understand that I'm aware of Patrick Haggard's position, but I want you to also know that he holds a position, not the only position.
Fair enough.
That he has a hypothesis, and for him, voluntary action is enough to hold people morally responsible for their actions. For him. But if
now he the expert. This is enough for him, but it ain't enough for you. I hear everything you're saying, yo. I hear everything you're saying.
You adding stuff because if it was enough, then it would be a consensus.
I hear everything you're saying, bro.
So are you saying all scientists agree with Patrick Haggard?
I'm not saying that.
Okay, so then if I stand with the scientists who do not, are you saying that somehow or another that I'm not?
Well, that's up to you. That's up to you to present some scientists that disagree with Patrick Haggard and the general nature.
That's you.
Yeah, that's you.
I'm just asking you a question.
At that point, you'd have to be presenting evidence that disagrees with cognitive control, right? You would have to go ahead. Not that you should do it right now if you got it, right? Tell me what develops from childhood to adolescence to adulthood that they call executive function. Tell me what that is if that's not more control over your decision-making process. So, tell me what it is if it ain't that.
So you made that up.
I'm listening.
You made that up.
All right, I made it up. Go ahead.
Straw man me. I didn't say that executive function was the street. I said Patrick Haggard's interpretation. I said that he says that voluntary action is freedom enough for him. That's what I said. Don't mistake what I said. Don't try to add to it or none of that. And then I asked you very clearly, do all the scientists actually agree with his interpretation? And you said no. That's enough for me.
I'm sure he's got some opponents out there, right? But I mean, since you said you read the article, he actually describes the process of executive function being developed from childhood to adolescence. But you understand it better than I do, man. I'm on your side. I'm actually rooting for you a little bit, believe it or not. I think you a smart dude.
I want to interject for a moment. Yeah, that was hot though. I could let y'all keep going and sparring each other, but I also again want to engage the audience. So I have a question for both of you, and Logic, I'm gonna let you go first. And it's a question from Joel, and he wants both of you to define what do you mean by free will. Do you mean like something you leave after death, or are you talking about a soul or spirit or God? Like, how are you defining free will for your argument, Logic?
So I am simplifying the definition of free will just as the Britannica says that I should be doing, which is I am saying that a person inside of determinism, inside of society, has the ability to weigh their options, make future goal-oriented decisions that they can be held accountable for. They absolutely can rationally understand, do not jaywalk and do all of that stuff. They know where the light switch is and they hit it when they feel like it. They can alternate blinking their eyes. They can do all that goddamn shit. But yeah, man, it just ain't that hard, bro. You can't allow the determinists to inflate the definition of free will so far that it only leaves me with operating outside of biology. That's just a simple answer. That's how you get it. And that's the only playground he has.
Okay.
That's it.
So, Chilembwe, can you answer, please? How do you define free will for this discussion particularly?
Sure. Let me say that free will, based on that, in philosophy and science, the supposed power capacity of humans to make decisions or perform actions independently of any prior event or state of the universe. That is what my definition of free will is.
Thank you.
I ain't got no more to add to it.
Thank you. So, Marcus, I'm going to give you opportunity now to ask Logic one question. Anything.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pull something up right quick. Hold on.
Take your time. We're just going to be vibing to the background music.
Okay, I got it. Can you define what hard determinism is in your own words?
Absolutely. Hard determinism says that of course everything that is caused has the effect, and it also goes on to imply, right, that all decisions that people make are fixed, right, within this framework of previous events, right, which would give them no options to make perceivable decisions, right? It would present them the illusion of options, but actually not giving them options. That's my definition of determinism.
And Logic, now you have the opportunity to ask Chilembwe a question.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought I asked it already, man. Can you just simply elaborate on why? Matter of fact, here's a better question. Here's a better question. Is there a difference between social evolution and biological evolution? And the reason why I'm asking you that, right? Because I know there is an idea that you float in your argument that says, oh, way back when we used to burn witches because the weather was bad, right? Would you categorize that as a social evolution or a biological evolution?
So that's I guess, good question. So society as a whole changes its perceptions of reality. So yes, that's a social evolution, but the causality of it, the cause was a greater understanding of biological evolution and its processes. And so as Neil says in his, what is that, rationale, when he describes it, they're all pushing, and Lisa Barrett to a degree, matter of fact, they all really do, describe this idea that as science advances and we understand more of the human condition, its processes, and how it evolved over time, then social ideas should also change. So we should match what the current science is and follow through with that.
Right. So, but inside of your answer, you had to agree that nothing changed biologically. No, there was no biological change. There was a social change in a lot of that.
What I said was we understood more of the biology. That would be like me saying, that in the 1500s, right? We had a idea that based on everybody's religious beliefs, this is how human beings came into existence. Darwin come out with his theory. There was some restriction, there was some pushback against that, true. But once science has proven it, as far as it has proven it, now people understand that human life started on the plains of Africa. At least Homo sapiens did, and that those conditions there helped shape the minds and the positions that people play today. I would find it very difficult to say that in the 1700s and the 1500s wasn't true then as well as it's true now. We just didn't recognize it. It's a beautiful thing to learn.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Very, very, very interesting. Okay. I mean, that was my question. I only got one. I'm good.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we are at the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to, stretch this out too long where it actually gets boring or, just confusing, right? With too much to really grasp and understand and take and reflect on. But if anyone in the audience has any questions for either one of our panelists that's going to be involved in this intellectual conversation, I have dropped the link for the panel in the chat, and I will do it again, but please, this is your time to do so. Please don't get scared. We like to have interaction with our chat in particular, with the people overall. So I'll give you a few minutes. And please, because I've been reading the chat, even though you don't think I'm there, I'm there, and I'm watching and I'm seeing, and I think there's some of you who have some questions, so this is your chance now. But also, with that said, Brass, is there any questions that you may have, or anything that you want to say to either the panel or the chat at this moment?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, and Juju, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
I want to say that philosophy is not a definitive ranking over all other sciences, because there is no definitive ranking of the sciences. It's just personal belief or opinion. Moving forward, logic. When you talk about social evolution, what do you think develops and changes in societies and cultures in time? What do you think is the cause of that? What do you think causes that change?
I think that's a pretty multifaceted answer. I mean, because I'd have to.
I'm looking for the simplest
I'd have
answer.
to. I'm trying to simplify it. I'm literally rambling about myself, time, but you caught me.
Okay, good. I got you.
But I'm being honest.
Okay,
so I feel like as more information becomes known, right, then they start making adjustments because society benefits from the streamline of this new information, such as if determinism was discovered to be true tomorrow, they would then begin to implement programs and processes that are more geared towards solving these social issues from the lens of determinism, rather than this intuitive lens of people are making conscious decisions, right? And since the evidence isn't strong enough for determinism, they have not begun that process. Just as
let me go to the refrigerator and get me some blue cheese dressing for that word salad. So I'm gonna ask you again. What do you think is the cause? Give me three, just to be specific. I'm gonna give you 3 bullet points. Just give me 3 things that you think deal with the development and changes in society and culture, if you want to, over time. Just 3 things.
I mean, known information is just. I mean, that's just like the umbrella I want to put under. I don't even know if I can think of 2 other ones that'll be more important than that. But
what about technology, politics, and social norms? Wouldn't that be like an easy answer?
I actually didn't think about that. To me, the easy answer that comes to my mind is known information. So once you actually confirm something, I absolutely could not fathom a known fact being ignored when it comes to problem solving. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Now that part is easy for me, right? So maybe I don't understand the mechanisms of society well enough to understand some of the nuance that you might understand to be able to incorporate
I'm
those
not
answers.
looking for No. This is the thing. I'm not looking for nuance. The reason why I was saying it is because your question about social evolution and I think you said biological evolution. Is I'm just saying, and would you agree that the changes in the social evolution are also external factors?
They are. Yes. Yes, they
okay.
are.
That's all I was going. I'm not.
Yep.
Just so you know, I'm not on any given side. I ask questions to kind of move the conversation forward, and then 2, like if I engage, I'm engaging to learn. It's just I didn't understand exactly. When you were asking him that question, I couldn't figure out why you were asking that question. Now I do in your answer.
Right. So I was attempting to kind of disarm him of a weapon.
You gotta echo like
this. Me? I hear myself though. It can't be me if I hear myself, right?
Continue.
I think it's the guy who just jumped on.
Now.
Logic. Let's continue.
Yeah, so I was attempting to disarm him of a weapon that I know he uses, based on, we used to do things one way and now we do them another way. And he would like to not he would like to not answer that question without saying that people's morals just changed, right? I feel like I can't force him to say that because he's just really good at answering questions. I want to just leave it that way, but I also wanted him to distinguish that it was no biological change, right? Whereas he would like to make a very large biological answer about why people aren't able to control the brain processes and so on and so forth. So even though people's brain processes didn't change, they were able to make changes inside of their society based on known information. That's what
I think you when you discuss morality, a lot of times when you're talking about determinists, I think one of the reasons why you bring morality is because I think it's almost, maybe there are other questions to ask or harder questions to ask, but it is a hard question, because if we're saying that all events and actions are determined by external factors, laws of nature, and there's no room for free will, then I understand what you mean, because we commonly experience a sense of choice and all of that and hold each other accountable. So I get where you're going with the moral responsibility. When Note came on and started talking about it, the one thing I started realizing is that you think that we don't understand why you're bringing up moral responsibility. I completely understand why. It's probably the hardest question to ask a determinist. The reason I say is just ask other questions, not just only that. I think you can hit the conversation from a lot of different areas. That's why I like with Note. I didn't like the hypotheticals per se, but even in the hypotheticals, it took the conversation to it was thought provoking. So, that would be my only thing. I can't wait for the debate on Friday. Apologizing.
Facts.
No, I appreciate it.
I was really trying to get the poster. If I'm trying to figure out how I can get that poster. Is there any way that you could share that poster? What did I just do?
I can if you want me to. I just got one question from Marcus, and then I'm done.
Go ahead.
Chilembwe, you available?
There's only one W in his last name, by the way.
But it's not how it's pronounced. Chilembwe, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is, man.
That's what he
All right.
said.
You there, Marcus?
Yep.
Okay. Here's my question to you. How can innovation and creativity be explained if every thought and action is predetermined?
There's no scientific consensus on that now. They don't actually know all of the factors that come about from that. Intuition mainly is difficult for them to see. So, there's no answer for that, really. You know what I mean? It could be a mechanism that we haven't recognized yet. They have some theories out there now on the function of abstract thought and using that as a means to creativity. And that's not a solely human thing either. So, we really don't know exactly where those things come from or the mechanisms involved in it. So we don't know.
Juju, if you don't mind, can I redirect that to Note? Because I saw he perked up a little bit when I asked the question.
Shoot, he's gonna change the dynamics. But hey,
no, because I know he's
fine.
educated.
I'm gonna give y'all 5 minutes, though. I'm gonna give y'all 5 minutes because again, I don't want to take the focus off of market.
No, I'm not. That's not a debate. Not about what me and him was talking about. I'm talking about that question. How can innovation and creativity be explained if every thought and action is predetermined? Or you don't think every thought is action is predetermined? To Notes.
Well, one, I just want to say I was actually just adjusting my chair. I wasn't perking up, but yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but I would say though that does raise a question really about creativity, art, things like love, hatred, like all those sorts of things. They if everything is purely determined and human volition is not involved in a discussion, then then those sorts of things do have to be explained. But I think too, likewise, the sort of things like creativity itself being something that's immaterial, likewise have to be explained on a sort of naturalist, deterministic front. like art, and again the expressions that things that are non-physical, and all these things have to be explained on a deterministic front. And I don't know that I've come across any real good answers for that. So,
okay, dope.
So at this time, Notes, you were next. Do you have an opportunity to ask each participant a question?
Yes, actually, because I asked the other brother question earlier, I do just want to say though that it's not opinion. The scale of philosophy. You can read Bertrand Russell, you can read T.S. Kuhn, and where all these things are laid out. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Kuhn. But anyway, but I do have a question for Brother Logic. If, and this is the similar thought experiment. If let's say I push Brass into you, who is immediately responsible for the contact to your body? Immediately responsible, the nearest antecedent, and then two, is he morally responsible for bumping into you?
No, this is a clear, to me, this is a very clear example of where the context actually matters, right? Where you can't exclude the actual events that took place in order to discover who is actually accountable for this, right? So it on Brass, it was an accident, but since you pushed Brass into me, right, it's really, you're actually the one who was responsible. Even if you didn't mean to push him into me, since you pushed him and he hit me, you're the one who's actually accountable. You did it. You're responsible and accountable.
Well, yeah. Well, I was asking a bit of a different question, just as a follow-up. Is he responsible for the contact to your body? That's what I'm asking.
Is he responsible for it?
Meaning, if you removed him from the equation,
I'd have to say no.
Okay, so he didn't touch you then?
Yeah, he did touch me.
So he's responsible for the contact?
I mean, technically, I get what you're saying. Yeah, technically he's right, but he wouldn't be accountable, but technically he is responsible. Yes.
Right, and so it was one of the things, and so I brought that up just because I do think that the brother had a good point when, and this is something too. If you reach out with work, you'll see that like certain things, even if you're not morally responsible for, and this I think that's the thing to help you too. Even if you're not morally responsible, you can still be responsible, and in the legal context. Something that they recognize, you know what I mean? So like you might have a person who is completely responsible for a murder, but we would morally exempt that person because of certain extenuating circumstances. You know, like if I put a gun to someone's head and I told them to do a lesser crime, right? And I'm like, hey, you know, either rob this bank or you know, go rob the ATM, like that. It's one of those cases where you have responsibility in that they were the person who committed the specific action, right? The more immediate action. But they're exempt from moral responsibility for either one or two reasons, because there's a justification, a legal justification, or an excuse, and those. But anyway, I just want to say that, and so I would just implore you to tighten up around that area there going forward.
Okay.
Anyway.
Right. So let me ask you a question, right? So if I just so happen, let's just say I so happen to have a scientific article that explained the legal implications about criminal responsibility and who's accountable, who's responsible. Wouldn't you say that's a good asset to my argument, or would you say I might need to stay away from that? What would you think?
I guess I'm a little confused. I didn't quite understand. I didn't quite understand. Could you clarify?
No, it sounded like you suggested that I might want to refine my argument as far as responsible and accountable, right? So right. Then I asked you, right, if I happen to have an article that explains some details about legal responsibility and criminality, and it kind of blended it with the modern neuroscience findings, would you say that'd be an asset to my argument?
I would actually say that would be a logical issue, an appeal to an inappropriate authority, mostly because the scientific article that's not a legal expert, neither are they anyone equipped on the philosophical front. So I would actually say that would be an inappropriate appeal. I think that like, and on a legal front, I have a Juris Master, so a master degree of law. But so on a legal front, there's a like I said, justification and excuse, those are two legal ways around that sort of thing. But yeah, in law, we actually do recognize those sorts of scenarios that I pointed out. So, if you tell a dude, hey, I got your wife over here, I'm going to kill her, right? The scale of life is way up here. And they say, so all of these lesser crimes, as long as they don't rise to the level of taking a person's life, those things, might be a reason to commit even an otherwise criminal act, and you'll be either excused or justified based on specific terms. And that's because, again, in the legal world, they understand the difference between immediate responsibility and moral blameworthiness.
Okay, I gotta keep it real with you. You said it kind of fast. I want to make sure that what you said that's a bad idea.
No, hold on, Logic. He needs more clarification. The guy that Logic is talking about is an actual neuroscience and a lawyer. He's kind of both. He's using both of them in his position, in his argument, in his paper. I can give you the guy's name in a few minutes. I think he's at the University of Pennsylvania or down in Virginia. I can't remember where he's at now.
It's Penn State. It's Penn State.
Yeah, he's at the University of Pennsylvania. So he actually works in both fields. So it's similar to how some lawyers can be doctors at the same time.
Yes. So this dude, he's a lawyer. Well, again, I would have to ask, what a specific was. I was just saying, just from the outset, if the person is not a legal expert, then it would just mean that there's less credibility to the claims and arguments that the person is making. That make the person
he's absolutely a legal expert, and he happens to be he happens to work in psychology, and he's incorporating the evidence in neuroscience to be able to make an article about responsibility, about criminal responsibility, and how it relates to holding somebody accountable for what they did.
Well, yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like that this would be even on par with the point that I was making related to responsibility versus blameworthiness, though. But again, I haven't read the paper. But if that's the general topic as you just laid out, or what you said he typically writes about, it doesn't actually sound like it's attacking the same point that I am here.
No criminal underground.
Okay.
No,
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wait. No. I don't want this to make the question and answer with not notes. I do appreciate him here, but this is not what this is for. I want to stay on task. With all due respect, my apologies, but some of my contestants may not have all the time that we may have. So, I want to get to them first, and then later on, if we still have some people that want to be here and have a discussion, we can do like a free for all in just a few more minutes. But I also want other people who have joined the panel to also ask their questions. So we will come back. Gideon, you were next. You have an opportunity to ask each participant a question.
Good evening. So, based on both definitions of free will given, can either of you definitively prove if and does free will exist?
I'll go first. So what I've been attempting to tentatively explain in the Discord, and more authoritatively explain here in the weigh-in, right, is that for me, for my position, the definition of free will is what makes it impossible for you to understand what I am saying. Because if I were to adhere to the intuitive definition of free will, I would almost have to be implying that there is something outside of these physical processes that allows me to be able to make choices, or actually make choices and be accountable for my actions. So I am purposefully, within the definition of compatibilism, I am weakening the definition of free will to simply a person having the ability to make choices and be held accountable for their actions. I'm not dealing with can they can they make choices outside of how is it put, previous events? I'm not even like that. Doesn't even resonate to me, right? Like that's when I get silly and I say I'm an elephant. Of course I'm not an elephant. I am biologically restricted. I can't revert back to a baby. I am biologically restricted. I'm not free in that type of way. But I absolutely am free to make decisions and be held accountable for running the red light, for inappropriately violating people. I'm free to do that. That's what justifies the consequences of my actions.
Marcus.
I'm sorry, Logic took so long. I'm all confused. Can you ask your question again?
Yeah, based on both of y'all definition of free will given, is there any way that you could definitively prove if and does, and I should also say where free will exists? Thank you.
That's part of the reason why they still holding this conversation, why there's no consensus on it scientifically. Some hold that the evidence present now is enough to prove that free will doesn't exist. There's really a whole gradients to it, and it's a whole lot more to it. So if I could just divide the people up and try to clarify some things that we need to clarify. There's a position that free will exists, and that position to some degree can be determinist and or indeterminist, though most of them are indeterminate. Then there's a position that determinist is true, and if determinist is true, then free will cannot exist. Those two groups are called incompatibilists. That means that they hold to some degree that the notion of free will and determinism are incompatible with each other, right? Those who do that then say, some may say that it's actually indeterminate, the universe. There's discussion about quantum mechanics and how they may play a part in there, especially with electron spin. There's an article coming out soon about that. Compatibilists argue it's different. Their argument is that even in a determinist world, that the notion of free will can still be relevant, or at least exist, mainly for accountability and moral responsibility. I think his name Daniel Dennett has this belief that is necessary to a degree. That is that people need to believe that free will exists so they can, so that society structure can at least have some stability. But there's no proof that it whether it exists or not. It's still a conversation. I will say that majority of people hold that the common notion of free will does not exist. That is the majority of science. What that implication means and what that how that may affect society different. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, both of y'all did. Now, if I can ask the second question, it's really quick. It's really a quick answer for both of them too. It should be.
Okay. Make it quick, please.
All right. So both of y'all,
and that's for respect to the panelists, because I understand that they have time constraints. Okay, but go ahead.
So,
and if the panelists can stay for one more question from Bawana, then after that you have the choice whether you want to stay or leave. I will let you know that, okay? But go ahead, Gideon.
All right. So, for both of y'all, would y'all say if free will did exist, it pivots on choice? And that's it.
I went first last time. I guess I'll just go first again. It pivots. I'm almost tempted to say it's more about the consequence of your choice, right? So let me give you an example. It's like so from my understanding in determinism, people air quotes make choices, but because they're not the author of those choices, you would not hold them accountable for their choice. You wouldn't hold them responsible for the choice they made because they're not the author of this choice. So in compatibilism, I'm saying that they have enough cognitive ability, right? I'm going to show where Patrick Haggard's experiments does give people enough control over these choices to where they had an alternate possibility, as David Hume would say, right? That there is the ability for them to have done otherwise, which would then allow or make it appropriate for you to hold them accountable for their choices, reward them, punish them, so on and so forth. But of course, we have some dispositions that we don't have choice over or control over. But we, inside of those dispositions, we are actually able to make choices that we have control over. And go ahead and answer, Marcus.
Thank you.
Can you clarify your question one more time, please?
Yeah, I was saying, would y'all say that free will, if it exists, it would pivot on choice?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It may be. I gotta try to. So free will exists, right? For me, I would not see it as a biological process. I can't picture that, where you have biological processes that are subjugated to the natural laws, and then in that notion of free will, a person can violate those laws and make an opposite decision. That's my position on that. I just have no ability to picture that at this current time.
Thank you for that. And last questions for each of the participants from Bawana. If you want to go ahead, if you want to introduce yourself to the panel or the chat, and then you can ask your questions.
Sure. My name is Bawana Hagoziki. And let me just first say, Juju, I appreciate the fact that you got such an awesome panel with these two brothers. They gave a brilliant discussion on these different, very, very difficult ideas of determinism. And I really appreciate it. One of the discussions, one of the topics that was brought up by Logic, I think, when he addressed the idea of alien hand syndrome. And he also talked about environmental dependency syndrome. I find these things to be very fascinating. And one of the questions I would have for the brothers on the panel is, the two brothers is, let me just give you an analogy. If the woman was in the bed sleeping with her husband, and because we are talking about what's voluntary and what's involuntary, what's conscious and what's unconscious, and in terms of what we should be responsible for. So if a woman is in the bed sleeping with her husband, or if a husband is in the bed sleeping with his wife, and in an unconscious state, he harms her. Involuntary state, he harms her. Should the husband be charged for an act against his wife, knowing that he committed the act in an involuntary state, in a state of sleep? Hello,
Marcus, I'll let you answer first.
That's a decision for legal experts. The influences and things like that. You ask Lisa Barrett, she's going to wholeheartedly say that emotions are socially constructed through biological processes, and so there's no difference in his emotional state and his ability to maintain. But I've seen people who were incarcerated for those type of situations, and they tend to make some exceptions to the rules for them due to their emotional state. What we should do about that as a society is different. From a hard determinist point, if the same circumstances have been presented the exact same way, the same decision would have been made. Whatever that means and how you're going to address that, I'm not sure. There's no solid answer in society for that. Different places got different rules to that. So I really don't know. I would like to have him held accountable to some regard for the damage done. But, it is what it is.
Logic.
What was the question again?
If a person committed an act while that person was sleeping, right? Whereas if a person committed an act, let's say a husband may have harmed his wife while he was asleep, should he be held accountable for that act or that harm committed against his wife?
Accountable. So since we're being accurate here, he would actually be responsible for hitting his wife, but you wouldn't hold him accountable. Right now, see, the language is going to become real tricky right there, right? Because when I have to say he's not making a conscious decision to hit his wife, now I got to explain exactly what consciousness is, and then I have to try to navigate the minefield of dualism and try not to imply that my mind is not separate from my body. But in simple answer, you would have to say he's not intentionally, right? Simple answer, simple wording, intentionally hurting his wife, even though you would say he's responsible. So, but the question that you asked me is he accountable? You would not hold him accountable.
It's logic. I think is an excellent answer. I was hoping that notes from, I can't remember exactly his thing is, I was hoping that he wouldn't pitch in regards to the discussion, because he would know the difference between mens rea and actus reus. Because if a person hits a person, right, while he's asleep, he doesn't have the intent. There's no how to intent. Harm the person.
There is no intention. Correct.
Right. So
you would hold it. He actually mentioned that in my answer a little bit a minute ago, right?
Yeah.
Where you can say a murderer has been responsible, but he's not morally accountable. I'm not sure how he worded it, but that was the very accurate way about saying it, right? He's responsible for the murder, but morally you wouldn't hold him accountable. Yeah, because of whatever circumstances. So the context is really the thin line between all of this stuff, right? And I don't want to convolute it and make it real hard to understand. But when you become a serious determinist, that context becomes meaningless.
Okay, you gotta let Bawana finish his point, though.
No, I would just say thank you. I appreciate the answer, Logic. I think that I was trying to go on along the lines of when you was having a discussion on alien hand syndrome, something that is involuntary. Should a person be responsible for something that was not necessarily consciously thought about or that was involuntary? I don't think so. So I think that the answer you give to me was a very good answer. But like I say, again, Juju, I appreciate the forum and the opportunity and the time. Thank you very much.
No, I appreciate you supporting.
Can I elaborate real quickly on what he's saying?
Yes,
I'm gonna be real quick. So to the point of what he's saying about the alien hand syndrome, right? Determinism goes as far as to say all of our decisions are like the alien hand. And that since we're not in control of our brain processes, we're not in control of anything that we do. That is exactly why compatibilism steps in and says, hold up, you're going too fast right there. And people can be held accountable for their actions, even though the cause is the cause is the cause is the cause, right? They agree with the causality, but they're not going to diagnose all human actions as idiot hand syndrome. They're not going to diagnose every human being on the planet as having environmental, what's it called? Damn it, I lost the term. But it's environmental dependency syndrome. They're not doing that. And determinism, in essence, is doing that. To a small degree, right? To a small degree, that is what they're doing.
All right. Well, thank you to the two gentlemen, Chilembwe and Logic. I appreciate you. I just want to remind everybody that this was the final weigh-in up until the debate, which will be January 26th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Pseudo Killers channel. So please come back, join us for an awesome, excuse me, I always get it wrong, right, Brass? Right, don't I? Intellectual conversation.
Intellectual conversation,
right? I'm always getting it wrong.
I got it wrong in the chat just a minute ago.
It's all good, but intellectual conversation and y'all get it. We don't got to say it, but I think over time you all will get why we're using that terminology instead of the other one. I don't even want to mention it anymore, but join us right back here Friday at 7:30 for an intellectual conversation with these two participants, Chilembwe and Logic, and it will be discussing the topic of free will. Logic arguing on the point of compatibilism, and Chilembwe arguing on the point of hard determinism. Right now, gentlemen, if you have any final statements, and I'll let Chilembwe go first, because once you do make your final statements, again, you are welcome to stay or go. And then I may have a few questions for the panelists, particularly notes, and we might just want to have some interaction, because I do like the fact that his perspective is strongly opposite of the majority of us who have been dealing with this conversation. And I think that's actually a good thing. So, we might get it in for about 15 more minutes, but I just wanted to remind people about the intellectual conversation, the actual event that will be, again, on the 26th, Friday at 7:30 p.m. Thank you all for coming out and joining us. Thank you all in the chat who have always been supporting the platform. And I appreciate all the compliments, but I also appreciate all the criticisms and corrections. So thank you. Chilembwe, you are first with your final comment or question, whatever you want to ask.
So I'll close with, I'm hoping everyone will enjoy the upcoming conversation coming this Friday. We'll be presenting a lot of sources. I'm working on putting something together as a subjective reading list for things you can read involving this conversation. I will be answering and showing some very new relevant research concerning the subject. I will also be explaining some of the straw man arguments, even the ones that was used tonight, arguing points that aren't really deterministic points. We'll explain that. I'm hoping that everyone will enjoy it. I'm a hard determinist. I stand with the hard determinist. And I understand that there are deep social and emotional implications to being a hard determinist. And I don't want to minimize that from anything, from anybody's experiences. We live our lives in social reality. That's how we live our lives. And as social animals who evolved on the planet Earth, there are certain conditions that we live in that have evolutionary benefits, but that does not change objective reality. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Thank you. Logic.
Yeah, it was tonight was a lot of fun. I think it was very, very well done. That was a very pleasant surprise to meet somebody who is even more entrenched in the conversation than we are. I honestly feel like, I mean, I know that tonight was more about our weigh-in, but I am always willing to defer to the professionals, not just because he seems to make a very strong compatibilist argument, but because he's a professional, right? He clearly has a better handle on the rhetoric, on the implications, on some of the word, I don't want to say wordplay, but absolutely some of the thought experiments that go into the process of philosophy that I am, right? So I'm very, very interested in what he has to say. Just as when it comes to debate time, I want the sources to shine and not what I think to shine, right? So I think that's going to be very important. But yeah, man, Marcus, this is definitely going to be fun. It's definitely going to be nothing but respect, from top to bottom. No matter what the outcome is, but I absolutely feel like that all I really have to do is appropriately define what it is I mean by free will, because the definition allows me to. And therefore, since in my definition, I don't have to insert the word voluntary, I can simply read the word voluntary and then go right into an article that explains voluntary actions. I kind of feel like it's going to be very difficult. I think that it's going to box you into rhetoric a lot more than experiments. And we doing it the pseudo killer way, yo. We talking about experiments and scientific evidence. And Patrick Haggard is in the Journal of Nature talking about nothing but experiments and scientific evidence. And so we that's going to be, that's really where the conversation is going to be. If you've got, I'm sure you got some sources that combat that. But I can't wait. I'm actually really excited. I've got some more organizing to do. I'm actually going to really take what Notes said to heart and revise some of my positions about the legal implications about it.
Mm-hmm.
And and make sure my presentation is as compatibilist as possible, right? And include the evidence. But with that being said, including the evidence, I don't know how you're gonna get around the evidence. Mm-hmm. But we shall see.
Sound like fighting words to me, and I'm so ready for it. So again, January 26th, Friday at 7:30 p.m. Be right here if you want to see that awesome intellectual conversation. You gentlemen are free to leave at this time. You can stay if you like, but if not, you're free to leave. And I think we may give about 15 more minutes in, if it warranted, to those who have any other questions or want to say some things. But I do want to note that we have another individual who joined the panel. One of my favorite people, Carnivorous Podcast, is in the building. Nubian Bahamut, please do introduce yourself to the people and let them know what it is.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Salami.
That's what's up. Look,
Surround me and bake them to YouTube, big brother.
Yeah, no.
Appreciate
See,
that.
Listen, we may not be religious, but one thing I won't ever do is I won't disrespect any religion, you know. So, yeah. Wa alaikum assalam. You still got to show some respect, though.
Right. Look, this conversation, the last one that y'all had was even better than this one. The first time that I caught them two squaring off, and I'm an atheist, right? But I was raised Muslim. But this just shows that the religious people have been having this same conversation for centuries, right? And I'm glad that science is taking it up. But religious people also have this same conversation without all of the biological stuff that y'all bring to the table. So it's good to hear the other side, how science weighs on the concept of free will and how it's connected to our biology. So I'm on edge. Y'all doing a hell of a job, and I'm learning. So I love that. And it give me a break from having to listen to Reggie and them go crazy.
You're so bad. Don't get us involved with that, okay? We ain't got nothing to do with that.
No. But so okay. So like in religion, like far as wise, I don't know how Christians view it. I think I do. I think Christians view it free will, like human beings have free will. That's why we got sent. But or something like that. But I know within Islamic tradition, the free will is like balance between God having preeminence over everything. Like he knows everything that we're gonna do, right? So it's like it's already predetermined. Mm-hmm. But inside that's the predetermined part right there, right? But then within that, human beings have free will to choose, right? So I always been confused. Like, well, if he know what we gonna do, and we gonna do what we gonna do irregardless, right? Because everything is predestined, then how do free will actually play into it? So this conversation is good because one saying that you're gonna do whatever is gonna be done irregardless, and free will really don't have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So it's like almost saying the same thing, but just from a biological aspect. So it's dope.
I get your point. It's absolutely dope. So I wanted to ask you, Notes, a few questions, if you didn't mind. Now, if you feel that any of my questions are out of line or you just want to share an answer, that's totally fine. I respect.
Ma'am, you can ask whatever you want. It's all good.
Okay. Thank you. So I wanted to preface my questions by explaining to you exactly what pseudo killers is, and maybe that's the reason why there may be a bit of a disconnect with the philosophical discussions, because we are primarily a scientific literacy group, but we are not exclusive to that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But for the most part, we deal with a lot of scientific matters. So this conversation, I'll speak for myself. For me, is extremely new. Like I knew nothing of philosophy before this, except for Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. Like, okay. But I think I have evolved a lot with the discussion at hand. So kudos to me. I'll pat myself on the back. But with that said, first of all, who is that on your avatar? It looks like Descartes, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no. On my thing here, it's Fyodor Dostoevsky. Russian existentialist philosopher.
Okay.
Russian existentialist dude. So anyway, that's just to keep it succinct. Next question. That's Fyodor Dostoevsky. So they've been contemporaries, the other existentialists, Jean Paul Sartre and things like that. So yeah, he was an existentialist in that same vein. Except for he came from a Christian approach to existentialism as opposed to being an atheist.
So, second question: what is your religious affiliation, if you have any?
Christian.
Got it. What is your position on free will? Like, where do you mostly lie? Are you a fatalist? Are you a compatibilist? You don't sound with determinist, but I'm not gonna eliminate that option.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would say is, so like compatibilists, and especially like in what's called in philosophy, really post Frankfurt style compatibilism, is where I lie. But basically, compatibilists are soft determinists, as I think somebody mentioned before. They're just not hard determinists.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a compatibilist. And to anyone, if you may have been lost on this thing, compatibilism basically says, just like you hear the com, like in community or communication or something like that, that it marries these positions like the will and human volition, and it says that it is compatible with determinism. So whereas the hard determinists might say that there is no role of human volition whatsoever, all of your choices are hopelessly beholden to antecedent conditions, is what they call it, antecedent conditions. The compatibilist just answers the question and says that, like, yes, that's true, and yes, your choices are limited, but that doesn't leave you choiceless, and so that's why.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That was pretty much the bulk of my questions. If anybody else has any questions for anybody on the panel, this is our time to like get it in with each other if we really want to do that. But I just want to say I do appreciate your perspective and you sharing and being transparent and coming on the platform or the panel. And please, I will be emailing you, but trust me, my emails are only for intellectual and professional.
Ma'am, if you continue to try to explain, listen, if you give me pictures of cheese, I would just say, if I didn't want to respond to the cheese photos, you know what I'm saying? But no, it's no problem at all.
Thank you so much. So just it's Jolanda Zachary so look for JZack1213 and you know the rest. So look for that email really soon. I actually might want you to participate in our discussion coming up Friday if you have time and if you are free. But I will email you and we will talk further. But thank you. But if you have any questions for anyone here, we still have Brass on the panel, and I know you two were pretty much having an awesome dialogue in the chat.
Hey, look here, Vince McMahon. I don't play the
wait a minute. You know how they wait a minute, Brass.
I know what you're doing.
Let me preface it. Let me do it. Let me do my thing. Let me do my thizzle on my biznae. You feel me? I'm down with the champagne now. That's a funny Florida saying. That means champagne, by the way. But you know how for the chat, I know y'all understand. You know how in boxing they have more than one round. So let's just let's look at it like that. The intellectual conversations, it can have more than one round. You feel me? So I feel like y'all had a good sparring round in the chat. And I loved it because I was also taking notes. And I think that's important. That's why I made the statement earlier. Not to offend anyone, but we can't get to the point where we think we know so much and we become closed off to new information. We have to always be able to vet where we stand in our positions on things, as well as vetting others. I think that's only fair, right? So with that said, I'm gonna let you have a first note. Do you have any questions for Brass or?
Let me say something before he go. Let me say something. And there's probably no need for us to converse because I actually, and that's why I was trying to fix what was going on earlier. A lot of times, sometimes when someone's talking, some things could be mistaken if they're not like in the conversation. I respect anybody that can stand on their square. I respect anybody that would even go out there and take on a field as difficult as philosophy. So a lot of times when I'm having a conversation, I also know, I just understand the respect. I respect the person that goes after that. But I also know when to agree to disagree, because I see where me and Notes disagree. I've also seen him on another channel, and I watched him destroy a brother but he destroyed them factually. It wasn't like really a lot of philosophy. That's why when he came on today and said he was a philosopher, that he studies philosophy, that explains a lot. So no, I agree to disagree. About PhDs and definitive rankings, because we'll always go back and forth, and it'll be a word salad of. Because I looked at Kuhn also, by the way. I understand why he's saying what he is saying. It will just never, to me, because I don't deal in absolutes, defeat what I'm saying either. So it wouldn't be a productive conversation. At least I don't think so.
Do you absolutely not deal in absolutes?
You are the word salad.
I don't know why. Listen, I
just don't deal science. Science in and of itself, it's very dangerous to deal in absolutes because things change with new evidence, new discoveries. So I understand why you say what you say about philosophy. I understand. I looked at Kuhn, so I understand how you got that. I just can't. When you say something is subjective, it's very hard for me to go from subjective to anything past that. So that's where my fact and opinion, maybe it's just a different wording. So I'll let you. I agree to disagree.
I'm seriously asking. Do you absolutely not believe in absolutes?
I don't believe in anything. I would say that I don't believe. Hold on, listen to me. I don't believe in anything. What I would say to you is, in my thoughts on absolutes, I just don't think that there's anything that's absolute. But I also don't not know that there's something that could be absolute in the future. I just don't think there's anything that's absolute, but I don't believe per se in anything. That doesn't have a fact or some form of proof or something like that.
Do you believe that we can know?
Not gonna play word salad with you though.
Brother,
I've seen you do this.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem.
No problems, just challenges.
Well, no. Here's the problem. If you just turn and call some word salad, which usually has a meaning, and first throwing a bunch of words don't mean anything. If I'm asking you questions and I'm asking you to defend your position, that's not a word salad. If I hold you to the axioms that you put forth, that's not a word salad. If you say something like I don't believe in absolutes, right? Logically, that saying what you don't believe is the same thing as saying I believe that there are no absolutes. It's still an affirmative belief, logically speaking. So you do have beliefs, and this is why philosophy is important. By the way, to Sister Juju. So yeah, as a matter of fact, let me show you this. I grabbed these. I can show you. Wonderful resource right here, Retrieving Ancients, by David Ruchnick, in discussion of philosophy, especially the beginning of Western philosophy. And in ancient Greek philosophy, which this is just like an anthology of.
It looks like an anthology.
Yeah, I was about to say the same exact word. That looks exactly like an anthology.
Yes. So
you ain't got to tell me. I know what they look like.
Yeah. So anyways, so that was really cool, right? Because you can go back and you can look at like even something like atomic theory. Well, that was philosophical first. The original scientists were philosophers, and atomic theory comes from like Democritus. Now, obviously, now we have like I don't know, I think it's 7 different theories of atoms. You might hold to like Schrodinger's atoms or Bohr's atoms or whatever it is, but atomic theory comes from philosophy in itself, because philosophy, it was principally like the study of the natural world. And so the original Greek philosophers, a lot of them were studying what they call the arche, the beginning of all things. So like what were the substances to make up everything?
Right. And I agree.
Yeah.
So I'll let you finish your point, and then I'll add. Go ahead.
Yes. So anyhow, I would say that with respect to the discussion now, if any person makes any claim, like regardless of what it is, like that is a claim that should be tested. Now, it doesn't have to be empirically tested. Empiricism is one way of testing something, and empiricism means the 5 senses, respectively. It's just 5 senses. But there's other ways to test things. Thought experiments is another way. Like you can ask a question for consistency. That's a whole other way. But there's other means of testing things that don't just simply go back to the 5 senses. So you can test whether something is reasonable or makes sense or is logical. Like for example, like there's no empirical test whatsoever to know whether there's a such thing as a married bachelor. Well, that's going to be semantic proof that you're going to offer for that, because to be married is to be one thing, and to be a bachelor necessitates the opposite of what it means to be a bachelor. So that right there, that's going to be a logical semantic proof that you're going to supply there to say to be a bachelor means to be without a spouse, and to be and really without a significant other, period. But whereas to be married means to have a spouse, and so those things necessitate a contradiction, and so you're going to appeal to logic in that sense and the law of non-contradiction there in order to prove that case. So logic and philosophy, they deal in fact, and so I know the brother said earlier they like things dealing in facts. Those actually deal with facts. There's positive facts and negative facts, and there's things you can show to that. All of the modern empirical scientists appeal to philosophy. They necessarily have to. They necessarily have to appeal to the correspondence theory of truth, which basically says that whatever is true is going to correspond to reality. Science depends on that in order to say we know what it is in reality because this is what we tested, and these two things correspond. So you need philosophy. There's just no question. You need philosophy in order to do any science whatsoever. But anyway, go ahead, Sister Juju. I'm done now.
Before I address the first half of that, well, 1/3 of that, and that was in the top part.
Yeah,
Nubia Muhammad, are you still there? Yeah, I have to do that because sometimes we be doing 1,000 things. So I wanted to. I wish Bobby Banger was here because he's so good at this. But I really wanted to address the part where you talked about the point about senses and empirical data, and that in science, did you say something that uses the 5 senses? Did you say that?
Yeah. Empirical sciences relate to the 5 senses.
Right. So I wanted to address that because, see, how we've learned and what we adhere to is that actually science doesn't necessarily, it deals with the 5 senses, but it's not relegated just to that, meaning that it won't, your 5 senses can trick you, and that's what we do know. And I also have this saying that when people say common sense, people just need to have more common sense because that's dealing with your 5 senses. But actually, people need to have better critical and logical thinking because your senses can actually mislead you, right? They can be wrong when they think they're so right. They can hallucinate. And so we rely more on tools or things to help combat how our 5 senses can fail us. And in science, that's why we do have tools. We have tools and we have a methodology, a scientific methodology in particular, where we can retest. You understand what I'm saying? So, and to also avoid those instances of utilizing just our senses. For example, in criminology, I'm a dock my yacht in a minute. In criminology, how should I say, witness testimony is like the most unreliable evidence in criminal proceedings. Like lawyers hate it, the prosecutors hate it because it's very unreliable. You know why? Because you're dealing with human beings and their 5 senses, which can be very tricky. That's all I wanted to say with that. So it's not, I feel like that has to be a correction made, that science doesn't, we utilize our 5 senses, but we have other tools that can actually be more accurate in than our 5 senses. That's kind of what
well, yeah, I would just say, I think you might be misunderstanding my point there.
I'm listening.
Yeah, so what I mean is that when you talk about what's empirical, you're talking about what you can know with the 5 senses. So observation, for example, you're talking about what it is that you can observe or that you can see. So that's dealing with the senses there, right? And so it wouldn't matter if you're talking about, what sort of sounds, like are harmful to dogs.
Let me interject on that. I want you to stay there because, see, I'm slow, so I got to do it slow, and also I like to do it slow for our audience, right? We call it slowing down the conversation. So, what about the James Webb Space Telescope? That is a tool that is particularly geared for observation, and it is far beyond our 5 senses. Our 5 senses cannot even, be anywhere near the magnitude of that instrument. you get the point that I'm trying to make, though?
No, ma'am, because it's really not understanding, and I don't mean that flippantly, disrespectfully. What I mean is that
you're fine.
When you talk about a telescope, you're talking about the ability to view something, and so what I mean is that if you talk about pictures of space or something like that, what modern empirical sciences do, and again, that's just what it means to be empirical, is that it's going to show us this thing, and it's going to accept things as true based on what we can observe through one of the senses. And so if you take a telescope and you're going to look at, I don't know, some black hole somewhere, right? Or you're going to listen to the sounds of a black hole or something. It's talking about the five senses. That's being juxtaposed over and against things like knowledge that you might acquire through the emotions, or things that you might acquire through plain reason or logical deduction. And so it's not saying that with the human eye you can see the Andromeda Galaxy or something like that, like from your front porch. That's not what it's talking about. Even if you can view so through a telescope, what it is telling us what we can observe or experience through the world through our five senses. And so even if you take a telescope and you enhance the human vision and you say, I can see this now because I've taken a photo of it and I can show this to you, and we're going to organize this data based on its, what we can see, smell, touch, hear, and that sort of thing. That's what I mean. And so I'm not objecting to human limitations and like the need to use things like telescopes. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that it limits what we can know about the world to the sorts of things that you can present to us and convince us via the five senses.
All right. Well, I will agree to disagree. Maybe I got a little bit more homework, but I think I made my point. I think people understand that. And this goes to show that even though we agree that philosophy may have been the root of science, I firmly adhere to the notion that science is far past philosophy. Like, we use philosophy to regulate thought, so to speak, but when it comes down to the evidence, we use science. And that's just where I'm at with it because of the evidence.
Okay.
But I like the fact that we are in different spaces and we can have this argument or excuse me, and philosophical arguments or discussions are not arguments like people are used to seeing in the so-called conscious community. I want people to understand that when I'm using argument, or most of us are using it, we're not using it in a manner of demeaning. It just means a discussion, a debate of maybe two opposite points of view, so let's not confuse that. But I don't want to go too much further, and Brass, you unmuted, so go ahead.
Yeah, let me give you an example why in some cases, even when you're talking with a person that kind of comes from a philosophical perspective, and this is why you said that I agree to disagree, because I would agree that philosophy is at the root of science, but I would stop there. I mean, I know it's considered the root, but even in a discourse, or you wanted to counter argue at all, science is based on empirical evidence. Like he keeps saying that, and I agree, but that's different from philosophical theory. Scientific methods like experiments or analysis, sometimes even some forms of statistics, are different they evolved kind of separately from philosophy. And then also, like, there's certain things that just develop by themselves, like biology and chemistry, that grew from just experiments, not really philosophy. So what I mean is, and this is why I say agree to disagree. It's not that he's wrong and I'm right. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, because our worldview and our viewpoints come from kind of two different places, there'll be gray areas where he is factually right. Mm-hmm. I'm factually right. And in that gray area where we could tussle and have discourse, it just doesn't have to be contentious. And what I see on YouTube specifically, when the cameras is on, when two people don't understand that they're both kind of, from their own viewpoint, not wrong, but they kind of are over the minutia, then that's when everything becomes contentious, and I just don't participate in that. So I don't disagree that it's not, rooted in philosophy, but there's just other things in science. That's why when you say things like it's ranked above all of it, from his point of view and the books that he's read and his history, his external factors, I could understand why he would say something like that. But for me, that would be focused more on definitive and actual. There is nothing that says, to me, there's nothing that says it universally for everybody that all sciences start at philosophy and then go down, from there. But then, once again, I understand where he's coming from. He may not understand where I'm coming from, and I'm not about to argue. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not about to argue in the minutia, because once you get into minutia on YouTube, that's when your mamas and the yelling and cursing and all that comes out. When in actuality, we don't really disagree that much.
Correct. So with that said, and not to be unfair, but I don't want to drag it out too long, I think we're just going to close the chapter on this episode. And again, I want to remind everybody, join us back here January 26th, which is Friday at 7:30 p.m. for an intellectual conversation between Chilembwe and Logic on free will. And this will be hard determinism versus compatibilism. And with that said, thank you everybody who participated tonight. I thank you tremendously. Notes, appreciate your addition to this discussion. Brass, of course, always, you are the bomb, and thank you so much. To everybody else who participated, Gideon Block, thank you for your questions. Everybody who came up and asked questions, and our panelists, Chilembwe and Logic, we appreciate you all. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. You know how we like to do it here. We like to go out with a little music. So I'll do that for us now. And thank you. And we'll see y'all soon. Good night.
Yeah. Look, smart chick dumb. Say she wanna smoke, baby, roll one. Oh, you can't roll, baby, pack one. We gon' keep smoking till the sack done. Oh yeah, hella chronic and my hyperbolic. Time chamber, yeah, I'm feeling brolic like Goku when he's fighting Broly. Peppermint green Maserati, what I'm trying to get, I know God got me. God sinner, yeah, I'm God body. I'm a pothead up in Potter's house. Glasses on, trying to spot a hottie. No Sue, woo, blue to Nolly. We was 4D, me and my crew from college. Running through, boy, I called it Charlie. Gangsta like Capone got it. Up early with the birds. See, I'm really trying to get this thing moving. See, the money playing probably seem Jewish. Got the upper hand, got the theme music. Got the Dapper Dan jean stitch. Dripping water, yeah, it seem fluid. You a Kappa King snitch. Self-esteem foolish, really need improving. Let me show you how to do it. Ain't no carbon copy, ain't no duplicate. I control minds 4 states away. Get the party poppin' for my crew and fresh out the shower, yeah, pimp coat be my bathrobe. I ain't new to this. Taking flights and catching Uber. Blowing kisses to the stewardess.
Good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. You can fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Young fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Young fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Haters cut it out like a coupon. I'm on top of the green like I'm a crouton. My young told me get a hand bone. I told him that I'd rather had a cube on. Listen, hey, it's been a good day. I had to put that ice cube on. Got a bad looking like a cube on. Smoke a big wishing like a cube on. Keep winning, y'all lose on. You know if it's me, it's you, homie. Cross me, I'ma get my Uncle Drew on. You know murder is an art, you get Drew on. Me and Q-type get 2 bones. Smoke a whole 56, 2 zones. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Try to stop, get a tombstone. Get ghosts just to see what you boot on. More kids in the mouth than a group home. As a kid, all I wanted was a coupe on dubs just to pull it off the lot with the roof gone. Gone. Good weed too strong. Got a bad pair too long. Yeah, fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad pair too long. Yeah, fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah.
Can you feel it? I can feel it. I can feel it. It starts.